You're live.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the City Council meeting. Today is Monday, May 19th, 2025. It's approximately 1 p.m. I'm Mayor Eric Enriquez. Before we start, I want to mention that we have an ASL, American Sign Language interpreter up front, if needed. We will start with a moment of silence for the brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces as they protect our interests around the globe, as well as the courageous men and women of the Las Cruces Police Department and Fire Department as they keep our city safe 24/7, 365. Councilor Flores, if you'll lead us in the pledge. Okay. Next, we'll go to presentations of certificates, appreciation, and proclamations. Mayor Pro Tem Bencomo? Bencomo. Well,
that's what you said.
begin. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to see you all here today. Our first proclamation is for the 110th anniversary of Progress Club of Las Cruces, presented to Debbie McCallan, and honestly, whoever wants to come up. Yes, you can. And you can stand right here. You're welcome. Are you Debbie? Hi, Debbie. Nice to meet you. All right, I'm going to start reading as you all make your way up. Whereas the General Federation of Women's Club, GFWC, Progress Club of Las Cruces, was federated on April 24th, 1915, as part of the GFWC New Mexico and the International General Federation of Women's Clubs in Washington. And whereas the GFWC Progress Club of Las Cruces is celebrating the 110th anniversary in 2025. And whereas the GFWC Progress Club of Las Cruces was organized to operate exclusively for charitable and educational purposes. And whereas the GFWC Progress Club of Las Cruces has provided scholarships and monetary support to students of New Mexico State University since 1915. Whereas the GFWC Progress Club of Las Cruces has worked diligently to provide leadership skills for women in the area of advocacy for children, arts, civic engagement, domestic violence, education, environment, scholarship, library, legislation, and whereas the GFWC Progress Club of Las Cruces is dedicated to improving the lives of women and the community of Las Cruces. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of Las Cruces, honor GFWC Progress Club of Las Cruces for their 110th years of service and encourage every woman with a desire to help her community to find an organization that meets her needs to help grow among the citizens of Las Cruces. Thank you. You want to make a couple of rows and we'll take a picture? Oh, do you want to say something? I'm so sorry. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councilors. Well, this is only a few of us. There's 70 of us in our club this day. We started giving scholarships out to New Mexico State University and we built the first library. To this day, we continue to support the library, New Mexico State, Doña Ana Community College, and many, I can go in a rabbit hole on how many people we have donated to and helped. Just this year, we've donated $32,000 to different organizations. We have clocked in 33,000 volunteer hours and 132 in kind, in kind. That means individually they have given money and donated time. So I'm so proud and happy to show you that we have all dressed up in the different decades and how long we've been here. We've gone through 2 world wars, the Depression, COVID, and we're still holding strong. Thank you so much.
I feel so much less cooler than you all. Thank you all so much. Next, we have a proclamation for National Public Works Week presented to the Public Works Department. I'm going to invite all of you to come down as well. Don't be shy. I already see you guys looking at each other like, oh, should we go down there? Yes, there we go. Yes, so many of you. I'm so glad. I hope there's no public works emergency while you're all here. We can go this way too, if you want. That's good too. Oh my gosh. Did you hear me, David? I hope there's no public works emergency while you're all here.
Everything's taken care of.
Perfect.
I said I hope it was close by.
He said everything's taken care of.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Yes, I love this.
More on the back that aren't coming.
There's more in the back. Oh, she said there's more of you that aren't coming, so. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read this while everyone makes their way down. If you're standing in the back and should be down here, yes. Peer pressure. Okay, I love this so much. Here we go. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Las Cruces. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential to our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civil leaders, and children in the city of Las Cruces to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association and Canadian Public Works Association. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City of Las Cruces and City Council of Las Cruces, New Mexico, do hereby designate the week of May 18th through 2025 as National Public Works Week, and urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. Thank you all so much.
Give it to Monica.
So first of all, I want to thank Mayor and Council for recognizing the dedication and hard work of all of your public works professionals. At this time, can you go ahead and help me give them another round of applause, please? So these individuals show up day in, day out, rain, shine, dust, wind, ice, snow, pandemic, you name it. Because of that, they provide the best possible service to our community for a better quality of life. That way, all of us in this community can enjoy safe, reliable, energy efficient, and accessible infrastructure. However, we cannot do this alone. We are but a part of a bigger part within our organization, our community partners, to make our city thrive. I'm sorry. For that, we understand the role that we play in everyone's lives, the impacts that we have, and how important it is to us individually to do that to the best of our ability. So, as you see them out on the streets, patching a pothole, fixing a street light, inspecting a project, all of those things, slow down, wave, say hello, honk, give a thumbs up, because we greatly appreciate the support and gratitude from the public for what we do every day. So from all of us in Public Works, we want to say thank you as we move forward in providing the services that we do con cariño. Thank you. Please stand up there.
What we'll have, everybody kind of just pull forward in front of the dais. We're not even going to try with the band.
Keep going. Keep going, people. You go. Sorry, move along, move along. Sorry about that. Oh, no, you're not supposed to stand in front of me. I don't want to be ahead. I'm sorry. I don't want to, he's too tall. Where are you going to go? Right here? Right here. Are we going to fit? Just because. Get over here. Oh my God, I'm going to throw up. Please, if you throw up, throw it away. Yes. Where is the picture guy going to be? Is he like falling on the ceiling or something? Okay, thank you all so much. Be safe at work. Give it up for Nathaniel for being able to pull that off. Thank you, Nathaniel. Okay, we have one more. And we have a proclamation for Mental Health Awareness Month presented to Luis Vasquez, Joe Provencio, Audrey Varela, and Jenna Torres Hanway. Are you all here? No one? Okay. Councilor McClure, do you want to do yours real quick and then we can switch?
here already, all right. Well, switcheroo, we're actually going to do another one, but I get to read it this time. This is going to be for National Historic Preservation Month. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing economic sustainability. And whereas the city of Las Cruces is home to a rich cultural heritage, including historic neighborhoods such as the Mesquite Historic District and the Alameda Depot Historic District, and landmarks such as the Amador Hotel, Rio Grande Theater, and the Doña Ana Courthouse. And whereas Historic Preservation Month is celebrated nationwide each May to recognize the importance of protecting and promoting historic places that tell a story of our shared past and shape our future. And whereas preservation efforts in Las Cruces contribute to the city's economic development by attracting visitors, supporting local businesses, and encouraging adaptive reuse of historic buildings. And whereas the city of Las Cruces values the role of its residents, organizations, and institutions in advocating for and preserving our historic resources, including the Amador Hotel, Mesquite Historic District, and other significant sites that embody our community's unique identity. And whereas May serves as an opportunity to encourage awareness, appreciation, and active participation in historic preservation efforts through educational events, walking tours, and community discussions. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of Las Cruces, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim May 2025 as Historic Preservation Month, and extends its deepest gratitude to the members of the Historic Preservation Committee and the staff of the Community Development Department for their commitment to historic preservation, and call upon all citizens to celebrate, promote, and support the preservation of our community's irreplaceable historic assets. And I'd like to introduce the chair of our Historic Preservation Committee, Dr. Jerry Wallace.
All right, thank you. My name is Jerry Wallace. I'm also the director of the Public History Program at NMSU, so thank you, Mayor, thank you, councilors, for inviting us here today to share some thoughts. This month is Historic Preservation Month. It was a program, an initiative established by the National Trust for Historic Preservation 20 years ago to the year, and it's something that was an extension of the original National Preservation Week that started over 52 years ago, when we started thinking about preservation of communities and ideas and what it meant for identity, especially local history. And this year's theme really focuses on something called harnessing the power of place, which sounds really fancy, but it really means the different meanings that people have given to a particular place over time. And so just to give you an idea of what I mean by that, my generation refers to downtown Las Cruces as the downtown mall. My grandparents' generation referred to it as Main Street or Las Cruces. And so just those generations alone think about the same place differently and what that place has meant. For me, that the downtown mall was the whole enchilada fiesta. You know, for my grandparents, it was where they conducted business and did different things. And so that's a really powerful way of thinking why we need to preserve certain communities or certain parts of our own community. This Wednesday at our HPC meeting, we're going to celebrate Historic Preservation Month, but we're going to do it a little bit differently. I've invited the village of Doña Ana County to come and share what they're doing out in their community about historic preservation. We've also invited somebody to come and speak about landscape preservation from Tortugas and thinking about Tortugas Mountain or A Mountain. And then we're going to look at other ways of preservation this Wednesday. And what we're going to focus on is also like not buildings or places, but things that go on buildings. So we're going to look at murals preservation and what murals mean about, what public art really means about our community and our identity, and how there's a couple of initiatives that are going on in the community to preserve those murals digitally. If you know anything about murals, they're up and they're gone. They're up and they're gone. And so we've created a digital archive over the last 10 years through the public history program at NMSU about preserving those murals and what those murals have meant to our community. They're much different than Albuquerque and El Paso and other places. And so public art says a lot about that. And so preserving those types of things are also part of what the committee wants to focus on as well. So again, I want to thank you. I want to turn the rest of the time over to Caitlin Beasley, who is the preservation specialist, and she can also share some ideas about Preservation Month.
Thank you, Dr. Wallace. Yes, I'm Caitlin Beasley. I'm brand new. I've just arrived this month, and it's a perfect month because it's Preservation Month. I'm really excited to be here, working with everybody, with the City Council, with community members. Consider me, ready to listen to anything that you guys have to say. Our buildings, our structures, our sites around the community tell a story. They tell important stories. They tell the community stories. And I'm really glad that I'm going to get to be a part of telling those stories and listening to those stories with you guys and continuing to preserve the historical character of the community. Thank you.
Okay, back to Mental Health Awareness Month. We will present this to Jenna. Jenna, is anyone else with you? Just you? Okay, perfect. Perfect. Come on over, join me. Okay. Whereas mental health is essential to the overall health and well-being of every resident of Las Cruces, and whereas 1 in 5 adults in the United States experience a mental health condition each year, and nearly 1 in 6 youth aged 6 to 17 experience a mental health disorder, and whereas stigma, discrimination, and lack of awareness often prevent individuals from seeking mental health care and the support they need, and whereas open dialogue, community support, and access to mental health resources help break down barriers and encourage individuals to prioritize their emotional and psychological well-being. And whereas the City of Las Cruces is committed to fostering a culture of compassion, education, and support through programs offered by Human Resources, the Employee Assistance Program, and through partnerships with local service providers in Las Cruces and the surrounding region. And whereas during Mental Health Awareness Month, we reaffirm our commitment to promoting mental wellness and ensuring that individuals and families in our community have access to the care and resources they need to thrive. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and the City Council of Las Cruces, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as Mental Health Awareness Month in the City of Las Cruces, and encourage all residents, employers, community organizations, and health professionals to increase awareness, foster open conversations, and promote a culture of support for those affected by mental health conditions. Thank you. Thank you. Do you want to say anything?
Hi, everyone. I'm the Benefits Coordinator with the City of Las Cruces. We were myself, Joe Provencio, our EAP, our Police Wellness Coordinator, Luis Vasquez, and our Wellness Program Coordinator, Audrey Barella, were really strong about mental health, and we wanted to make sure that our employees knew that there was resources for them if they ever experience a crisis and they don't feel like they have someone to turn to, that we wanted them to be aware that they have resources here within the City of Las Cruces to help them out. So, thank you.
That's it, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is Jobs of the Week. Ms. Palomares.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Giselle Palomares. I am with America's Job Center, New Mexico. So for the jobs of this week, the City of Las Cruces is hiring an assistant management analyst. It is paying $21.10 an hour. The job posting closes on June 2nd. City of Las Cruces is also hiring a human resource specialist that pays $21.10, and that closes on May 26th. And Pioneer Bank is hiring a teller, pays anywhere between $16 and $18 an hour, and that closes on June 7th. Franklin Mountain Packaging is hiring a general laborer, and that pays depending on experience, and that closes on June 6th. And Mesilla Valley Public Housing Authority is hiring a front desk receptionist, also depending on experience, and it closes on June 5th. And NMSU is hiring a copywriter that pays $43,908 a year, and that closes on June 7th. For events and opportunities throughout the community here in Doña Ana County, on May the 21st, Community of Hope is partnering with America's Job Centers to host the Job Readiness event from 2 p.m. to 4:30. And on June 10th, we have a Job Corps meet and greet at the American Job Center office in Las Cruces. On June 17th, we have an America's Job Center meet and greet, and that is with Mesilla Valley Public Housing Authority to be able to provide services to their tenants. And on the 25th of June, we have Community of Hope Job Readiness event as well. And then on the 26th of June, we have Lions Club free glasses event from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the America's Job Center office as well. And as always, if you are wanting to contact us, you can always call us by telephone number or scan the QR code for more information, or you can visit us from Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Giselle. Next is Pet of the Weeks, Carol.
Good afternoon. I'm Carol Nilsson, the Digital Content Specialist with the Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley. Just as a reminder, anytime a dog or a cat are promoted as Pet of the Week, they are available at no cost. And this week, our Dog of the Week is Lucky, and fortunately, he has already been adopted. So we've been having some good success lately, so we're super excited for Lucky. And also, we were going to have a Cat of the Week. The cat that we selected got adopted before we could promote her. So again, good problems to have. So we do still want to draw attention to our long-term residents who are available for adoption at just $25. These are all residents who have been at the center for 3 or more months. We just want to highlight our top. Alice has been at our center now 349 days. Tony, 333 days. Whisper, 292, and Peppa, 288 days. And just also wanted to highlight more good news. Bruno was on this list, but he too was adopted recently. So some of our long-term residents have been finding their home, so we're happy about that. We wanted to highlight our upcoming drive-through vaccination clinic, where the community can come out and get free and low-cost vaccines, low-cost microchips. So we'll be at the Field of Dreams on June 1st from 9 to 1. So definitely come. Sometimes the line can get a little bit long, so make sure that you come equipped with water and snacks for the pets, because sometimes they can get a little antsy, and it is first come, first serve, and only until supplies last. So, and that for this upcoming weekend, we will be at PetSmart and also at the block party that Farm True is holding downtown on Saturday. So definitely come by and check out our adoptable pets. And for more information, feel free to follow us on social media or visit our website. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Carol. Next is a conflict of interest statement. Does any member of City Council, City Manager, or any member of the city staff have any known conflict of interest with any item on the agenda?
None, Flores.
None. None, Graham.
None. Next is public participation. Will allow up to 3 minutes, no pending litigation or items that are on non-consent. Katrina will come up and help usher you to the podium. Please state your name and speak clearly into the microphone, please.
Thanks for your help. Mayor, council, and those watching online, I'm Lynn Moorer. Key problems are evident regarding the city's implementation of the new lead and copper rule. The service line inventory of piping the city is required to post online has huge gaps. More than half the properties have no indication of any service lines whatsoever. Handout 1 documents a sampling of the gaps found regarding 702 properties. You can also see it looking on the online map. Zoom in on the houses west of the northern part of Trevice Drive, for example, and see the dozens of houses that show no water hookups at all. For the properties that are listed, a large number feature false or misleading characterizations about the piping, or they're characterized piping as non-lead without any foundation whatsoever. Handout 2 spells out examples of these deficiencies for 81 properties. For instance, the fourth property listed on page 1 records that Las Cruces Utilities has designated the entire service line as non-lead, claiming that the installation date for the city-owned part was after 1986 lead ban, even though it notes that the piping was installed in 1968. 18 years before the lead ban. This is clearly a false designation. Another deficiency is the city's habit of asserting that a service line is non-lead without any basis whatsoever. Look at the last property on page 2 as an example. Another deficiency is that Las Cruces Utilities characterizes an entire service line as non-lead, even though a portion of it is unknown. Look at the first property on page 7. EPA guidance sets out an easy-to-understand chart how a water system is supposed to characterize a service line if part of it is unknown. The link to that EPA guidance is in the footnote. Service line inventories are the foundation from which water systems take action to address lead service lines, according to EPA. They are key to getting lead lines replaced and protecting public health. While the inventory may be a living document that will be updated, the rule does not allow false information to be listed in the inventory at any time. We're concerned for all the Las Cruces folks who, trying to do the right thing, look up their property online to see what the inventory says about their piping. At least half of them won't even be able to find their property on the map. Another quarter or so of them are provided false or misleading information about their property. These deficiencies mean that the city can be found to be out of compliance with the rule and liable for civil penalties. Moreover, it calls into question the veracity and competence of Las Cruces Utilities personnel working on this and everything they've told us related to the city's pipes. I urge you to study this well-researched, fact-based information and consider it thoughtfully. Check the rule and EPA guidance. Look up at least 2 properties from each handout. This is evidence of a serious problem. You can't just wave off all these data as some kind of anomaly. These are some of the reasons we need an independent engineer with management experience to assess the city's compliance with the new rule. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Hello. Oh, there we go. Hello, City Council and Mayor. My name is Abigail Suluk-Sogan. I have been a constituent in Las Cruces for about 17 years now, and I have watched the city rapidly grow. It's a beautiful sight to see. I did want to say that I'll be speaking on agenda item 8.6, but I have very limited time today. I'm needing to leave for work. Do I have permission from Council and Mayor to move forward with my comment?
No, I'm sorry, we can't.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, City Council. Mayor, my name is Lucas Herndon. I'm a resident in District 2. I wish that I could come and talk to you about the police not murdering people in our city. But since the last time I was here, they have murdered another person in our city. This time, they are too busy doing parades in Washington, D.C. to even inform the public about it. And to quote the police chief, the timing is just terrible. Due to the unfortunate timing of this incident, that incident being the murder, and with many of our department members traveling to Washington, D.C. for National Police Week, we will delay having a news conference until after our return. If a member of the general public committed murder and told the prosecutor or the judge that it was an inopportune time for them to go to court because they had a parade to go to, they had to ship their motorcycles across the country, I'm pretty sure that the legal system in place would tell them that was an insufficient reason for them to not do their due diligence. So I'd like to know, I would like accountability from the city, why the cops are allowed to murder somebody and then not tell us about it for 2 weeks because they're busy at a parade. I don't know. Maybe it was totally justified. Maybe this man, shot a machine gun at a cop and tried to murder them. I don't know. Maybe. But we don't know because the cops won't tell us. Given the history of what cops have done in this city, given the record payouts that the city council, on behalf of the taxpayers, have had to pay out to the victims of cop violence, I'm not inclined to believe that. I'm inclined to believe probably the worst. And until somebody tells me otherwise, you're going to have a hard time convincing me otherwise. So I think there needs to be accountability on this one. And future ones, and past ones, but on this one in particular. Thank you.
Usually it takes them a lot longer to get to my spot. Hello, Council, Mayor. My name is Trent Scribner. I'm here because today I was lucky to be able to get off of work. I'm here at 1 p.m. on a Monday. I'm just happy to see you. I understand we're probably going to be here for quite some time unless you guys decide to switch the agenda around a little bit because we know what everybody's here for today. I'm here because I believe that these public forums are important, man, because times are tough and I think that they're getting more and more important as we move forward, and I'm not the only one who feels that way, clearly. I wrote a big whole thing today. I'm here because I believe that the young, working people in Las Cruces are criminally underrepresented here and in the city and in cities all over the country. I'm sure that the council is aware of this. I'm sure that you guys talk about like youth engagement and engaging with the city as a whole a lot. And so what I want to ask you is to change the times for these meetings, to lie outside of working hours. Because I know a lot of people, you just heard from someone today who can't stay for the whole day. I know a lot of people who I tried to get out here who can't come because it's at 1 p.m. on a Tuesday. And that's like a very small cohort of people who can show up at that time. I believe that the young working people of the city are going to have to live with the consequences of whatever happens or doesn't happen here for a long time, man. We're going to be around. And so we have the right to be represented. We have the right for it to be accessible to us, as accessible as possible. Whether they really show up or not, the option should be available to them. I understand this is some onus on the city workers, and I respect the hell out of you guys for doing it. I'm asking you to stay a couple hours late so that we can show up, so that we can maybe show up. That's all I got for now. Thank you.
Good afternoon, commissioners, or councilors. Mr. Mayor, My name's Jim Hurst, and I'm here to say why separation of church and state is so important. Separation of church and state is important because democracy is important. There's no democracy without freedom, and there's no freedom without religious freedom. Our founders recognized that a democratic republic could not work without freedom, and freedom required the freedom to think for yourself, thus the freedom of religion. The founders also knew from experience of the Reformation that governments were often tempted to exploit religion for political ends. So they wanted the American government to be neutral on religious issues. That's why they forbid our government from passing any law establishing religion. Unfortunately, the U.S. has not always followed that restriction, such as the addition to under God in the Pledge of Allegiance. It was added in 1952. America is different religiously now than we were at our founding. Our religions no longer tolerate or promote slavery as they once did. For the most part, our religions recognize the equality of women to men. Most importantly, belief in God is no longer nearly as universal as it was at our founding. Nuns, that is, people with no religious affiliation, are now, according to Pew Research, 30% of our population. It appears that Trump is taking aim at nuns because it pleases his base of evangelical Christians. His vow to make America religious again and to make America pray again is a direct affront to the conscience of nuns and their decision to live without religion. Telling nuns to be religious is similar to telling Baptists to be Catholic. I have no desire to follow the spiritual advice of Donald J. Trump, and I don't think it would be beneficial for our country to do so. I ask this council to be vigilant in preserving religious liberty and the separation of church and state. Thank you.
Good afternoon, City Council. My name is Donna Stryker. There's something called innocent before proven guilty. I've been reading the public participation for a year. The disrespectful, degrading, threatening, and slanderous remarks, while strictly prohibited, are simply ignored. If you don't like it, I guess. I mentioned it before, and I'll remind us again as the public. This council is not required under the state constitution to listen to public comment. And I personally really appreciate Mayor, Council, Mayor Pro Tem, all of you, that you continue to allow us to come before you. I've interacted with almost all of you, and although we don't always agree, I have to say that the staff that I have worked with, the city manager, the mayor, the police chief, the fire chief, many of the councilors, although we don't always see eye to eye, I understand that. We all have different beliefs, but can we just be respectful? This public comment is important, and I like it, and I love it, and I hope you continue it, but I have not had emails not returned, even when we don't agree, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. We don't have to agree. Becky Cran reminded me of that last meeting, and I appreciate again and again, Becky, I don't think you know how often I think about you. I just read all the minutes from the work session. I hope you as public input behind me, listen and read what the counselors say. I was surprised and pleasantly surprised when I read many of the counselors' comments from the last work session about the budget. I don't agree with you all the time. I know that, and you know that. But I will tell you, I do respect you, and I think that the job you do is extremely difficult, but is extremely difficult as a person in the public to listen the citizenry be disrespectful and degrading and threatening. That's very difficult for me, and I am terrified and concerned that our council and our mayor will be forced by a few to ruin it for all of us, and I sure hope that doesn't happen. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, Police Department. Tim Jenkins here. Number one, I'd like to apologize for the rhetoric and the behavior against our police department. They leave their families, they leave their wives and their children at home and fight for us every single day. We back them and we fight for them and we pray for them and we hope the best for them and the whole entire department. Number two, I'd like to bring to your attention, I don't know if you guys are aware of the fact that yesterday, over 1,250 people from Las Cruces were deployed out of this country in harm's way. We had a ceremony on Thursday at Mayfield for the families and for the wives and for the children as a send-off, as a God bless you and a thank you. And I want to thank Bill Matisse for showing up and for being there. It meant so much to me and to my girlfriend and my 3 best friends that are gone for 10 months. And I just want to bring it to your guys' attention that we keep them in our thoughts and our prayers as they fight for us and for our freedom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katrina. Next on the agenda is to read the closed meeting statement. Took place today. The City Council met in closed session at 11:02 a.m. on May 19th. The following were in attendance: Councilor Graham, Councilor McClure, myself, Mayor Pro Tem Bencomo, Councilor Coran, City Manager Ikani Tamopayao, City Attorney Brad Douglas, City Clerk Christine Rivera. Outside counsel was Chris Filippo. I butchered that one. And Chief Story was also in attendance from 11:02 to 11:20 a.m. The meeting adjourned at 11:39 a.m. We discussed the pending litigation regarding Anthony Spade versus the City of Las Cruces, and also discussed pending litigation regarding Darlene Oaks versus the City of Las Cruces. Again, it adjourned at 11:39 a.m. Now we need acceptance of the agenda.
Move to approve, Corin. Second, Graham.
This is on the motion to accept the agenda as presented. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Matisse?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Cran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. So we'll start with resolution number 25-137, a resolution authorizing the City of Las Cruces to accept various budget adjustments.
Move to approve. Second, Graham.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, staff, and public. My name is Vanessa Perez, and I'm one of your budget analysts. I'm here today to bring a resolution to accept various internal budget adjustments. Before we dive into the overview of the budget adjustments, I'd like to share a few reminders. The adjustments presented today will primarily focus on updating available balances within our budget. And the following slides only provide a summary of the adjustments requested, but if you would like further detail, please refer to your packets. Fire Station 4, located on Missouri and Telshore, has a roof leak. We are requesting that budget be set aside in 2 different funds to cover this expenditure. We are requesting that about $209,000 be reallocated within the general fund. This would create a net effect of $0. Additionally, we are requesting that within Fund 2023 SSGRT, about $291,000 be set aside, and again, this is for the roof leak. The total amount of funding needed is $500,000, and this will help cover a full replacement to the areas above the dorm, the kitchen, and the apparatus bay. Lastly, the Information Technology Department is requesting to allocate funds for the replacement of a vehicle which was totaled in an accident. The insurance payout of $17,000 has been transferred into the Vehicle Acquisition Fund, and it will now be used to cover the expense of acquiring the replacement vehicle. Before you are your standard options, and I stand for questions.
Thank you, Vanessa. Any questions? Seeing none. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 25-137. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next is item 8.2, resolution number 25-138, resolution amending the FY 2025 through 30 capital improvement program.
Move to approve.
Second.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Cynthia Lamillo, CIP Manager with Planning and Implementation, and today I'm here to present one CIP amendment. This amendment is for a newly funded project and also a new project within the CIP. The amendment is to bring in $500,000 for the fire station 4 re-roof, and this is part of the same amendment that was just presented for budget. Now, I would like to see if there's DBC Dawasi will help us hear more details about this project.
All right, good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Dominic Susi. So this is for the Station 4 re-roof. As you guys can see in the pictures, the roof is in pretty rough shape. We've got leaks to multiple dorms and multiple areas to the kitchen. Those leaks are displacing firefighters at this point. So when it rains or sometimes when it snows, we can guarantee that roof leak is going to come through and follow the ductwork and go into various dorm rooms. We've already had to displace firefighters a few times. It hasn't been the entire station, but we've had to move people around to accommodate them, and it's just causing a lot of problems for us and really affecting our response. So kind of the issue with the roof at the station, so I think when we have facilities and we have roof problems, it's one thing to have a leaky roof maybe in an office building where you can displace people for a little while. But when we have leaks in fire stations, we're having to displace personnel, and that response district is compromised. So this is kind of the big issue here, is that if this gets worse or starts to cause more problems, we'll be moving personnel and compromising that response district. So here in the pictures, you can see that it's gone into dorms, and just these guys are using buckets and moving beds around to kind of stay away from the leak. But the pictures kind of don't really illustrate how bad this leak is, but it's definitely going all the way through, and they haven't opened up the roof completely, but I'm sure is plenty more damage. Thank you.
Thank you. Cynthia Lamillo for the record. Council, this is the only amendment that we're presenting today, and with that, here are your council options.
You have a question? Councilor Flores.
I have a question. Excuse me. Actually, I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Number one is, why and I don't mean you personally, but why did the fire department wait so long to address this issue? The other is mold. Has it been tested for mold? because it looks like there's a lot of damage there.
Yeah, so to answer your first question, we've been putting in work orders for this issue for a while. I took over facilities for the fire department about 8 months ago, roughly. So that's kind of when I got knowledge of this. So I don't have a perfect history, but kind of through the grapevine, if you will, people that have been stationed at this station will talk about the roof being a problem. I believe it's been a problem for multiple years. It's unaddressed. So to say why we waited this long, I don't really know, but I think we've, over the last 8 months to a year, have put a lot more focus on our own facilities and have moved these issues to the front of the line, basically.
Yeah, it's really concerning to me because you did say that some of the firefighters were displaced or has interfered with your ability to conduct a business you have to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really concerning to me, and I hope that in the future these sorts of situations are nipped in the bud, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a stitch in time saves 9. So thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you, Mayor.
And to address the mold issue. The
Pardon?
mold question, the second part to your question.
I'm sorry.
So as far as the roof goes, we haven't tested the areas of the roof for mold, but we recently had a bathroom construction project that we had a water leak, and there was mold found in that bathroom of station number 4, and they have abated that mold. So it was tested, an abatement company came out, pretty much took out the entire bathroom, men's and women's, and because there was mold found, they retested it recently. It's been good. So now we're working on basically a complete bathroom remodel. Currently, the membership at Station 4 is using an exterior trailer for showers and bathrooms.
Yeah, and I hope that the testing for mold is continuing because it's insidious, so I hope it's detected if
Yes, ma'am.
it's there. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Is there any more questions?
Councilor Crane.
I have more of, I guess, a comment more than a question, which everyone always loves, I know. I just, first of all, want to thank you for thinking about this, but I don't know if the public really necessarily thinks about the ways that city facilities exist, but fire stations, people are sleeping in them and living in them and carrying on with their daily functions. And I don't know if folks necessarily realize sort of how we prioritize things within the facility system, but certainly where people are living day to day, I think should be of a high priority for us. And so I'm glad we're working on this. I hope we can continue to elevate issues, especially related to dorms for the fire department. But they're really the only, it's a very different functional space than much of the city inventory. And I think it's important for the public to realize, that we have city buildings that folks are sleeping in as part of their job. So in case you didn't know that, that's why fire stations are a little bit different in this conversation. So I just want to remind folks and say we appreciate you all for doing that. And I would like us to definitely prioritize those facilities as much as we possibly can for that reason specifically.
Thank you. Councilor Matisse.
I was going to ask you why work orders were ignored, but you don't have to answer that.
Okay.
But I think, do you have a schedule now to where when you have a roof, let's say this roof is going to be guaranteed, should last, what, 20 years, 10 years?
Yeah, about that.
And then do you have a work order maintenance scheduling so that these fire stations and other facilities get upgraded and the money is, the work orders are not ignored because it just costs you more money when you go a longer period of time fixing stuff?
We've been working on some processes to kind of ensure that we pay closer attention to these roofs on our end. We've hired more people and some logistics specialists that are helping us out. And then we just had a meeting with facilities and talked about, let's say, every 2-month inspection of the roof, kind of on our side, and also putting in a work order for them to go up and take a look at the roof for the next year. So right now we don't really have any process in place for them to even go take a look at the roof. I think this is what caused that problem in the first place, is neglect. And then we get to the point where it's leaking and that leak just gets worse and worse. With these flat roofs, we want to make sure that the debris and things don't collect up there, which is probably the culprit for most of these things. So we're working on a system to get our logistics specialist to put in a work order every 2 months, first of the month, every 2 months on that 2-month period for the next year to get kind of an idea of what our roofs look like. And then going forward, we'll maybe adjust the interval as necessary. So that's kind of the plan going forward. But outside of that, hopefully that works out.
No, that's good news. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 25-138. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next is 8.3, resolution number 25-139, a resolution adopting the municipal adopted budget for fiscal year 25-26.
Move to approve.
Second, Graham.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, City staff, and public. My name is Jacqueline Rubalcava, Budget and Grant Administrator with the Finance Department, and I'm bringing forth this resolution to adopt the proposed budget for FY26. Here's a cover of the new budget book for FY26, and following the City Manager's direction with Adelante con Cariño, we wanted to highlight the way that the community celebrates Cariño through local events. So this budget book will be showcasing the city's spirit and engagement throughout the year. The cover photo was selected because of the return of the Mesilla Valley Balloon Rally. We wanted to highlight that event. We'll start off with all funds expenditures. These are all the funds in the city broken down by fund type. On the first column, we have the FY25 adopted. What that means is this is the amount that you'll see that was adopted in last year's budget. And this is if you refer back to the FY25 budget book, these are the adopted amounts that you will show. The FY25 revised column is next. What we mean by revised is it's the current budget in FY25. So this is constantly changing. Anytime, as we saw previously, we had a resolution for budget adjustments, anything that's brought to council and is adopted will change the revised budget. So even from the work session to now, there is a change to the revised budget based off of the quarterly budget that was adopted. The FY26 proposed column is next, and this is the amount that we are proposing for FY26 budget, and this is what you will be considering for adoption today. So for the general fund, the FY25 adopted was at 165.6, FY25 revised at 169.4, and the FY26 proposed is 175.3. This is an increase of 5.9 million, or 3.5%. For the citywide total, for FY25 adopted, it was 597.1 million. FY25 revised is currently at 665.5, and we're proposing the proposed is $612.2 million, or a decrease overall of 53.3 million, or approximately 8%. Breaking that down a little bit more, we wanted to highlight the top 3 ones that had decreased, so special revenue funds. This was mostly due to changes in grants. When we bring in the proposed budget, with the lives of the grants, there are different procedures that need to be followed, and so some of these grants are ending in the fiscal year, and we won't receive agreements until later on in FY26. So we'll bring those to council, and that's why you usually see an increase with grants over the fiscal year. And then for capital project funds, again, this is capital projects that are ending or coming to close through the end of the fiscal year. This also includes some grants. And then for enterprise funds, there were some changes in transit. So there was, with the transit building coming to a close in FY25, the construction for the new facility, there were higher expenditures in 25 than we'll see in the proposed for 26. There has also been a decrease in utility spending, and so that's what you'll see housed in the enterprise fund. From the work session to now, the revised and proposed, you'll see that there was a decrease in the revised. This was due to, again, changes that we brought to the quarterly. So any changes that we brought on the April 28th quarterly meeting to council, you will see those changes reflected, as well as there was a system issue that has since been resolved, and it was just affecting the revised column. It did not affect the proposed column. The FY26 proposed city budget, we wanted to break it down to show the $612.2 million expenditures that we previously saw in the table. And so you'll see that enterprise funds makes up about 31% of those expenditures, with the general fund at about 29%. Here is just for the general fund expenditures, and so we're wanting to show again the revised budget of $169.4 million, and then the proposed of $175.3, or a 3.5% increase. A summary of just the general fund, again with the same columns that we saw previously, and this is just breakdown for the general fund. So for the proposed budget, we see a beginning balance of $76.1 million, revenues of $166.5, expenditures of $175.3, transfers, net transfers of $34.6 million, giving us an ending balance of approximately $32.7 million. And then we see the required 2/12 reserve. This is a requirement just for the general fund. And it is a state requirement to have 1/12, and then it's a city to have the other 1/12. And to calculate the required 2/12 reserve is just based off of expenditures. So it's 2/12 of expenditures. And so that's about $29.2 million, giving us an unreserved balance of $3.5 million for the FY26 proposed budget. We wanted to further break down the general fund increases, and we chose these categories: personnel, operating, and capital, to break down the changes from FY25. And so for personnel, there was an increase of about $10.7 million, operating a decrease of $1.5 million, and capital a decrease of $3.3 million, giving us a total general fund change from FY25 of $5.9 million. And this is from and then we wanted to show the difference, this is the difference between revised and the proposed budget. These are some considerations that are in the budget. So for FY26, the salary and benefit projections, there is a 5% general wage increase. Represented and bargain contracts are incorporated. Longevity is incorporated. Most vacant positions are budgeted at 50% and at first quartile. Health insurance is at employee and spouse rate. Para increase at 0.5%, and insurance premium increase of 12%. So these are all incorporated into the figures that you saw for the proposed FY26 budget. Where your money comes from. This is just for the general fund, and we wanted to show the breakdown of revenue sources. So for the general fund, most of the revenue source comes from gross receipts tax, which makes up about 79%, or $130,711,900. We did break down the rest of the revenue sources, which total the revenue at $166,520,697. Where your money goes. Again, this is just for the general fund. The largest category for expenditures in the general fund is personnel. And that's about 69%, and that's usually what we see year after year, followed by operating at 31%, and capital is about 0% at only $523,000. So giving us a total expenditures of $175,339,787. This is just a breakdown for the general fund expenditures, and so we wanted to break this down again by the same categories: personnel, operating, capital. So this just gives you a visual. It's broken down by various departments to get us the general fund expenditures of $175.3 million. So the pink is categorized by personnel, the dark blue in operating, and the yellow is capital. To break down the enterprise fund expenditures, you'll see utilities at the top, again broken down the same categories: personnel, operating, and capital. The enterprise funds expenditures total $187.9 million. You do see a small portion for public works. While their personnel is largely housed in general fund, there are some allocations for some of the employees, which is why you see that 1.7 in this table. These are the transfers from the general fund. So for the vehicle acquisition, we have $1,261,000. And then it breaks it down. This is just for the general fund, and these are already incorporated transfers in the FY26 budget. The following slide continues with the general fund transfers to give a net transfer total of $34,631,452. We wanted to break down the new positions. We'll start first with the general fund. This table will show the breakdown of new positions in the FY26 budget by department, the position name, and then the FTE equivalency. So for Parks and Rec, we have 1 recreation services supervisor, a senior landscape architect, irrigation worker, and 6 youth program specialists. For police, a codes enforcement officer, animal control officer, and then for finance, a buyer 1. Any of the positions that have an asterisk are identified to be budgeted at 50%. Anything that does not have that will be budgeted at 100%. And then if it has a little 1 next to it, it was related to a council request, either through the budget retreat or work session. This is a continuation of FY26 new positions, still with the general fund. City managers is a Mesilla Valley Community of Hope facilities maintenance worker, quality of life, library 2 collection development, and a food service worker, community development, plan review engineer, and then for fire, 8 firefighters, those are all budgeted at 100%, 3 drivers and 3 lieutenants, and those are budgeted at 25%, and this is for staffing of Fire Station 9. This gives us a total new position count for the general fund being 30 new positions. And here are the FY26 new positions for non-general funds. So for Visit Las Cruces, we have an office assistant senior and an intern. For Public Works, a utility locator 1 and 2 light equipment operators. And for utilities, MIS administrative assistant and a GIS technician 1. Continuing with non-general fund and continuing with utilities, we have a SCADA network specialist 1, billing and receivables representative, water quality lab senior office assistant, and a solid waste service worker. So for non-general fund new positions, the total count is 11. Here's a breakdown of the Fire and Police Academy. So for Fire Academy, there is an expected start date of February 2026 with a graduation date of June 2026. And this academy will support the staffing needs of the new fire station, and it'll also help fill vacancies throughout the department. For police, the academy there's an anticipated start, the start date was April 2025 for the 55th Academy, with an expected graduation date of September 2025. So this one does cross fiscal years and is included in the budget right now, as well as a 56 Police Academy, which is anticipated for January to July 2026. And this will help support recruitment and maintain staffing levels in line with operational needs. So both of these, both the academies for fire and police are currently in the budget. Here are some council highlights. Some of these requests are requests that the departments were able to align with council requests, either made through the budget retreat or the various work sessions. So for the, starting off with the department, we have police, the NIBIN lease, and this will improve our ability to solve firearm-related crimes through rapid ballistic evidence comparisons, boosting efficiency and supporting national forensic efforts to enhance community safety. That's budgeted at $40,000. Parks and Rec, PAL Boxing is budgeted at $100,000, and that is a free program that teaches boxing and is a support for at-risk and low-income youth, and it's open to all kids and young adults. And this is through Parks and Rec. And then for Public Works, a neighborhood traffic calming program, and this is a pilot program aimed to reduce vehicle speeds and improve safety on residential streets. And this is currently budgeted at $140,000. For communications, a closed captioning Spanish translation, which uses AI to automatically translate English into Spanish for closed captioning during live government events. And this one is budgeted at $4,320. Economic development, an MRA project Jumpstart, budgeted at $100,000. And this offers financial incentives to businesses and property owners within the metropolitan redevelopment area. In City Manager's Office, the SNAP, or Spay and Neuter Action Program, is funded at $80,000, and this helps prevent pet overpopulation and improve animal health in Doñana County and the city by offering low-cost or free spay and neuter surgeries. For fire overtime for licensed master social work, budgeted at $38,922. This would allow off-duty social workers to be hired on overtime to cover any vacancies or light program services needed. And then for City Manager's Office and Public Schools, we did add in the caseworkers to 5 days a week at $150,000, and this was per the mayor's request at the work session. This is to provide funding for the Las Cruces Public Schools to have additional availability for school counselors. And then the City Manager's Public Health Coordinator, this is grant funded. The grant is currently with DFA, and then we'll get the agreement back. And this would be a grant of $350,000 over 2 years, from which the public health coordinator will be paid out of. For all other funds, starting with economic development, we have the downtown security cameras for TID, and this is part of a partnership aimed at enhancing public safety in the area. And this is budgeted at $175,000. Economic development, Rio Grande Theater interior painting, also for TID, budgeted at $52,000. And it aligns with the city's mission to beautify downtown and maintain the area's historic charm. And then last, for economic development, a downtown planters safety improvement, again in TID, budgeted at $80,000. And it's part of a partnership aimed at enhancing urban safety. And then for public works, a sidewalk condition assessment budgeted at $440,000, and it involves inspecting sidewalks for issues like cracks, uneven surfaces, and hazards to ensure pedestrian safety. And then last on this slide is housing and neighborhood services, the storefront repair initiative. This is a carryover, budgeted at $271,866. And the funding amount has increased from $2,500 to $5,000 per occurrence. And this is to provide funding to local businesses impacted by graffiti or vandalism to help restore and maintain their storefronts. I will hand it over to Mercedes from Fleet, and she'll go over the VAF list for FY26.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, Mercedes Tomeko for Fleet Services. For the FY 2026 VAF vehicle list, we've approved 2 vehicles for fire, a Ford F-150 and a Ford Maverick hybrid, totaling $91,000. These are both for operational support. We have 3 vehicles approved for Parks and Recreation. All 3 are Ford F-150s, totaling $165,000. 2 are for sports fields and 1 is for park maintenance. And then for the police department, we have 8 Ford Interceptor hybrids approved and 1 Ford F-150 for animal control, totaling $772,800. For Public Works, we have 1 Ford F-150 approved for construction management, totaling $55,000. And Quality of Life, 2 Ford F-150 hot and cold bodies, totaling $177,200 for Meals on Wheels, sorry. And then all these vehicles are replacements with the exception of the Ford F-150 for animal control. That is the only new vehicle. Thank you.
Jacqueline Rubalcaba for the record. We'll continue with the fiscal agent contributions. This is broken down by the different agencies. So for animal services, the FY25 City of Las Cruces contribution was about $2.2 million, with the FY26 proposed contribution at $2.3 million, or an increase of 5.18%. For MRVDA, we have $2.8 million for the FY25 City of Las Cruces contribution, with an increase of about 7.7% to about $3 million for FY26 proposed. And for Metro, the amount will stay the same at $325,543. So for the proposed City of Las Cruces contribution portion, this table just shows a portion for the City of Las Cruces only. The total would be about $5.7 million for all 3, which is an increase of about 5.86 from last year's budget. 5.86%. Here's a breakdown of the Telshore Fund. We wanted to give you an update, and this table shows you what was budgeted in FY25 out of the Telshore, and then we have the FY26 carryover estimate. This is currently just an estimate because this was the department's best estimate at the time that we created this table to what they would be spending this year. This is subject to change. And so if there's 0 on this table, that shows that they're anticipating to spend the full budget in FY25 and there will be nothing carried over. This is a continuation of the Telshore Fund updates. And then on this slide is also a continuation, but this also has FY24 carryovers identified with 2 asterisks. These are the FY26 Telshore request highlights. So these are items that are budgeted in FY26 out of the Telshore. And so for housing and neighborhood services, first up we have mano a mano. You'll notice that from the work session, the amount did increase to $800,000. Safety opportunity support, or SOS, is budgeted at $199,913. Health public services is budgeted at $600,000. Homeless outreach program budgeted at $164,000. So the total here is about $1.7 million out of the Telshore Fund for FY26. Here are your council options, and I'll stand for questions.
All right, thank you, Jacqueline. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thanks, Mayor. Again, thank you all so much for getting us to this point. You all have a great budget team, and we started back in December, and so it's nice to be here in May. Thank you very much. I have a question and maybe a very small amendment. I don't want you to freak out. I do just want to It was brought to my attention, and it wasn't in the proposed budget necessarily, but it was brought to my attention that Mavita did receive an increase in their budget. I just honestly, on principle, I want to make an amendment that we reduce that back to their budget from last year. Honestly, mostly because a couple of things. One, I know I didn't miss any budget conversations, and I don't remember having a public conversation about that increase. And two, the city manager asked every department to go back to zero-based budgeting and get tight on their budgets. And many were asked to make cuts on their budgets. And so just on matter of principle, I think I want to see that. Do you have those numbers in front of you? I think there was a $25,000 increase.
Yes, it was increased at by $25,000 to $275,000.
So from $250,000?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to make that amendment today and then request that we have a work session with this. We used to have work sessions with Mavita, Film, Las Cruces, which I think they had also requested an increase. I'm not sure, did that happen?
I don't have that one off the top of my head. I'd have
one.
to get back to you on that.
And then the third one was Downtown Las Cruces Partnership. Those were the three that have usually come to work session together. I just, we put some nonprofits through the ringer when it comes to getting increases, and I just, right now, at this moment, I'm not comfortable moving forward with that increase in the budget. So before I do, can I make an amendment now, City Manager? Okay, yeah, so I'd like to amend the budget to have Mavita back down to $250,000.
Second.
You want to go ahead, Chrissy?
This is on the motion to amend the Mavita funding back to $250,000. Councillor McClure?
Yes.
Councillor Matisse?
No.
Councillor Graham?
Yes.
Councillor Cran?
Yes.
Councillor Flores?
Yes.
Councillor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
No.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mayor.
May I ask a question?
Oh, are you done, Mayor?
Yes, I'm done.
Oh, okay. Councilor Flores.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Rubalcaba. You really impressed me with your numbers and all that. When you get a request, say from Mavita, for an increase, how does that travel through this maze of government? Does it go to the city manager? Does it always come to city council?
So a request like this, Mayor, Councilor Flores, to answer your question, a request like this would have come through the department, and then it would have been verified by budget.
And the department would be, in Mavita's case?
I believe Economic Development submitted this request.
Right.
And it's based off of different factors. So we'll look at, for this year's budget, because we did go into the base budgeting method, it did require to look at contracts, to look at the historical of that, to see if what the actuals are actually reflecting what they'll need in the budget. So it was analyzed by one of my analysts here in budget, and then it would have continued through the budget approval process to go up to the city manager.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking is because when there's a contract, there has to be performance. If you don't have performance from the party that says that it's going to do something, there's been a breach. And unless I missed something in the 8 years almost that I've been on city council, I haven't seen anything come from Mavita. And so I just want to know, how does any department, because these are just numbers that you were given by a given department, right?
Correct. We're given the numbers, and then we're giving any contract information or historicals that we see in our system.
So when you get the historical or you get the contract information, what is it you're looking for? Are you looking for performance by that party?
We don't look at performance in budget. We look at the contract amount. So if there's a contract in place for a certain amount, or if there are actuals that back that up, or depending on the department request, we don't make final approval. It'll head up to the city manager. So there are different considerations taken when looking at budget.
Okay.
And I'll defer over to Elizabeth Teeters from Economic Development. She'd like to speak.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Elizabeth Teeters, Economic Development Director. I just wanted to talk in reference to how we come up with, how we allow our partners to propose more funds. So first off, we do have our partner updates every year after the fiscal year, so that's happening in August for all of our partners during a work session. In addition, so we had Mavita, Film Las Cruces, and DLCP, Downtown Las Cruces Partnership, all come to us this year and ask for additional funds. But we try to hold all of our partners at the same level, and both Film Las Cruces and DLCP came to us just a few months ago, and by then the budget process was almost over. So we told them, let's talk about it, let's try again in the fall, and then we could propose again. Now with Mavita, they came to us in the fall this past year, and so we started talking about it. They wanted an additional $100,000. So we talked to them, we put it into the budget, and then as it got through the process, $25,000 came out of it. And their proposed reason for the additional funds is because of the inflationary pressures and the cost increase. And they put together a sheet, trade show costs are going up 7%, car rentals are 30%, lodging and air is 25%. That's how much the costs have come up, but the money there hasn't been additional funds. And then in addition, they've added 4 new programs in the past few years. So that is what the justification for the increased funds were. But just so you know, we do try to work with all of our partners, but when it comes that close to budget, like being approved, we try to just tell them, let's try next year. It's not that we don't want to, it's just adding in extra funds at the last minute, we didn't think was fair to the budget team.
Well, I don't think it's fair to the city to be giving increases where they're not merited. And my humble opinion in this is that it's not merited. So my question to you, Ms. Teeters, with all due respect, is what is it that you look at in terms of, is it meritorious increases? Is it, I feel sorry for you? Are they incentive increases? What is the increase based on, with all due respect?
Mayor, Councilor Flores, as I was saying, it's the cost of inflation mostly. Mavita travels a lot on behalf of the city of Las Cruces and the county, and so their travel costs are going up significantly, but they are expected to do the level of work at the same amount. That was their justification to us.
Well, that's their justification, Ms. Teeters, but if I were looking at this, I would look at how much of that travel was attributed to work that they were doing for us. And I've shared this before. The last meeting I went to for Mavita, I used to go monthly to the monthly meetings. And I stopped going a little bit over a year ago, maybe, well, more like 17 months ago, when the Mavita person said that he had been to Taiwan with the governor and yada, yada, blah, blah. So I asked from the floor, well, what is it you brought to Las Cruces since the monthly meetings were being held? I haven't been to any since then here in Las Cruces. And the answer was, well, yada, yada, blah, blah. In other words, nothing. So I just want to communicate that to you as a concern. And in your assessment, your department, to see what it is that we're getting in, we have to, contracts are you give and you take. We haven't taken anything in many years. So if we could keep an eye on that, I'd really appreciate it. And this is not a directive to you. I'm not your boss, but I can tell my boss over here, Mr. Khan. Yeah, excuse me. I'm his boss. But in all seriousness, and this is not directed at you personally by any stretch, but those are questions that I just have to ask, and maybe one day we'll have an answer. But thank you very much, Ms. Teeters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Enriquez, Councilor Flores, Icani Tomopiao. I just want to share appreciation to Economic Development and Finance for facilitating that. Movida did come in to meet with us, and as Elizabeth shared, there was discussions happening, and it is a recommendation that I made that should have been presented to you in the work session, but that was missed in the PowerPoint. So I apologize on that. That is something that we try to, that I strive to be transparent on that. That wasn't in the PowerPoint, so I never want you guessing on what's happening, but I hear you loud and clear. This is the discussion that we're hoping for guidance and direction, but I try to get it right on the recommendations, and I apologize, this one I missed. Lesson learned. We'll definitely communicate in the future and do as best as we can to be transparent. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Matee.
Yes, can I ask you to bring up page 9? I think it was 9, page 9, 10, 11. Okay, and then there were actually specific amounts from, I think, again, from the Telshore Fund. And I try to add them up, but not that you move fast, it's just that I am slow. But when I was adding it, it was approximately anywhere from 15 to 17 million. And I just want to say on public record, I was really happy to hear Ms. Green in the bulletin that money will be repaid. In other words, the Telshore Fund will be made whole from those funds. And did I read that correct in the Las Cruces bulletin? Maybe city manager could add to that.
Why would it be made whole?
Yeah, is Natalie Green in the room? Okay, here we go. Councilor Matisse, I would recommend Natalie, if she wants to share what she said. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Natalie Green for the record. So most of these that were funded last year are loans. Peachtree Canyon, Phase 1 and Phase 2, and Three Sisters and Padrina are loans. So those will have a repayment with interest back to the city. And so our goal is to make the Telshore whole. Not all of these are loans. For example, the Mano a Mano program is a reoccurring expense. There is no return on investment. Well, there's always a return on investment, but not a financial return on investment. And then the Amador crossing, in that case, there's a possibility for repayment. Obviously, that's city funding for a city project. And there is no debt service on that project, so it will generate revenues, but how much revenues we won't know until it actually starts operating. We have those projections. And then there's the possibility for repayment. In the case of Padrino, we did not expend any of the $2 million because we got a state grant that covered the entirety of the city's contribution to that project. So while we still have a loan and we will get interest on that loan back, we didn't actually have to put out any of our dollars. We use the state's funding. And so in some other cases, we're trying to do that as well. We'll let the state pay instead of the city, and then make money off of it.
No, thank you, Natalie. That's good to clarify that. That's good that money's paid back to the Telshore Fund. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? All right, Christine.
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 25-139 as amended. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Matisse?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Cran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next is item 8.4, resolution number 25-140, a resolution approving the capital improvement programs for fiscal year 2026 through fiscal year 2031.
Move to approve, Graham.
Second.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Cynthia Lamillo, CIP Manager with Planning and Implementation, and I'm here to present the FY 26-31 Capital Improvements Program document. So I first want to start talking about what are capital improvements, what is actually in the CIP program. So capital projects are long-term investments, which includes, and it's not limited to, when we do an acquisition of land for a public purpose, such as buying property for park, construction or rehabilitation of infrastructure, construction of a new facility or a major addition to a facility, similar to what we just presented with the Fire Station 4 roof, rehabilitation of or major repairs to a facility and its grounds, and expenses related to the design and plan of a capital improvement. This is especially applicable for those multi-year projects that first start with the design and the planning of the project in itself. The CIP is required by city charter, and it prioritizes capital needs and identifies potential funding sources. It also informs the selection of legislative priorities. As you know, every year, city councils identify legislative priorities that are then submitted to the state to be considered for capital outlay. It also informs the public of the city infrastructure investments and of our future needs. The Capital Improvements Program produces the CIP document, which is a 6-year plan for capital projects. 1 year is funded, meaning that it has funds in this coming fiscal year, and the 5 years are unfunded. It's guided by the comprehensive plan and other city council adopted plans, such as the Climate Action Plan, and it includes several funding sources, including grants, capital outlays, bonds, and loans. The CIP document is adopted by City Council and all of its amendments as well. This is a different perspective on the CIP document. As we noted, it is guided by the city's comprehensive plan, which states how the city would like to be in 20 years. We have year 1, which will be fiscal year 2026, that will start July 1st, that is funded. But then the outer years will be fiscal year 27 to 31 are unfunded, but all of this is with the intent that all of our capital investment have the consistency of attaining sustainable growth with our community. This is a snapshot of the actual document, and as you can see, we have made some minor template revisions to the document. Hopefully, they will facilitate reading the document. It's categorized by the CIP categories. We include the department, and the green column is our funded column. Our outer years are unfunded, and this is how we communicate to the community the needs of our city for infrastructure projects. The last column are our funding sources. Those in bolded are the sources that are currently being, that are associated with the project, and those unbolded are the potential funding sources. Now I want to take a pause to thank the planning and implementation team for the time and effort in supporting the CIP. For the last couple of months, the CIP program has been a program of one, so I really value their support in getting us to this point. As the CIP document is a 1-year process. So we started last year with CIP planning and working with projects and with departments in identifying any new capital projects or refining existing projects. In the summer, we had what we call the CIP kickoff, and that's an internal meeting where we meet with all departments and we set how the new process will go, and we'll give them as much guidance as possible and how to fill in our forms to ensure we have complete information. In September, that's a deadline for the department to submit all of the projects, and we also collaborate with nonprofits to ensure that they go through the CIP process. In November, we start the review process. Here's where we have a lot of back and forth with departments. We have 4 key departments, public works, sustainability, facilities, and utilities. Well, they help us review key aspects of each project, such as the scope of work and cost estimates, as we want to ensure that our information is as accurate as possible. We then evaluate those projects against set criteria that includes the community benefits, operational benefits, and their alignment with the plans. In March of this year, we had the CIP retreat. We had our first work session and publication of the CIP document. In April, we had our second work session and public hearing, and today we're here presenting our CIP document for adoption. Our next steps after this adoption is that we will continue to collaborate with departments to review projects as the current fiscal year is still happening. Once it ends, we'll touch base with departments to see if they have any other projects that were completed or if they need any adjustments to the associated funding. This is a quick overview of the CIP. So the funded project, the proposed FY26 is $187 million, and this is a significant change from last year, but I do want to point out that through the current fiscal year, there were several projects that received grants and funding. So that amount has been carried over to the next year, and that's why one of the reasons you see an increase. The unfunded needs, we also have a change of 28%. And one of the reasons of this increase is that as we're placing more structure into the CIP process, we're collaborating with departments in scoping out projects so we can add them into the CIP, and that will allow us to plan our investments. This is the location of all of our CIP projects. As for CIP, not only the numbers is significant, we also double check the location of our projects. The dots that you will see are projects that have specific locations, such as a building remodel, and the lines are trails or street projects. So that's why they're in a linear format. Another CIP overview. So the CIP has 4 types of projects. The first type is a carryover project, and those are projects that had or currently have funding, and we're carrying over their project for next year. Annual projects are projects and programs that receive funding every year, such as the re-roof program. So there's a schedule of lists of projects so that we rotate those projects. Future projects are all of those that don't have funding, and this fiscal year we have 1 project that's newly funded. But I do want to point that with the year, as we receive new grants and new funding, the number of newly funded projects usually increases. Then for funding, we have the carryover amount of $171 million and the newly funded, the single project of $181,000. The CIP includes multiple funding sources. As you can see, one of the biggest funding sources are the grants. The grants also includes the capital outlay that we have received for the last couple of years. We have bonds and loans, and the other, which is a combination of gas and capital improvements, gift and memorials, public works capital improvements, and wastewater and water capital improvement funds. This is a summary by department, and as you can see, those operational programs like Parks and Recreation, Public Works, and Utilities are the departments that have the highest CIP funding. Highest projects. This is the number of projects by categories, and again, we see the same 3: utilities, street improvements, and public facilities. I want to point out that public facilities are public facilities that are open to the public for activities like the library and our senior centers. This is a summary for the funding sources, and we continue to see our 3 main categories: public facilities, street improvements, which includes all of our street reconstructions, and utilities as the ones with the highest funding. As we mentioned, the CIP is also a process that's used to identify the capital outlay or the priorities are submitted. And this year we have received several funding for capital projects. We do have to wait until the city receives the actual agreement, but we do want to point that as funding that has been tentatively approved. So the projects that have received capital outlay are East Mesa Recreation Complex, Brannigan Library, which also includes a bookmobile, inductive charging, Museum of Nature and Science redesign, active transportation. The next slide is also for capital outlay, which includes Paseos Verdes and Amador Crossing, which are our 2 housing projects, ADA compliance, wastewater and septic systems, street and park lighting. The last set of capital outlay projects are police regional response vehicles, police real-time crime center, and the CIT mobile integrated healthcare building, and the Mesilla Valley Community of Hope master plan implementation. So those are the projects that have received capital outlay. And with that, here are the council options for the FY26 CIP document adoption.
Okay, thank you, Cynthia. Anyone have any questions? Seeing none. Christine? Christine, Teresa, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Changed on me.
This is on a motion to approve Resolution 25-140. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Matisse?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Curran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next is item 8.5, resolution number 25-141, a resolution approving the deaccession of 2 public artworks.
Move to approve. Graham?
Second. Corin?
Go ahead when you're ready.
Good afternoon. My name is Ceci Vasconcelos. I should say Mayor and council members, my name is Ceci Vasconcelos, and I am here to present the City Art Board's recommendation for deaccessioning 2 public art pieces, and I promise those are the only numbers you're going to be hearing in my presentation. This is the first time we have felt the need to come to council to deaccession any of our public art. Deaccessioning is an important decision that must be determined by the City Art Board after careful review. According to the Public Art Master Plan, deaccessioning is a procedure to formally and permanently remove an artwork from the City of Las Cruces public art collection by selling, donating, or destroying it. Murals don't necessarily fall under this procedure, but because it is on a historic building, we thought it'd be best to bring it forward. In this case, we are asking that a mural and a wooden sculpture be removed and destroyed. There are certain steps that the master plan suggests following, which include City Art Board review of condition, that it meets criteria such as it's in bad shape or is unsafe. We make a good faith effort to notify the artist and then bring the recommendation to deaccession to council. The steps we have followed are: 1, we have a condition assessment done, that we had a condition assessment done by an independent consultant of 65 artworks in the public art collection last year. We reviewed the consultant's recommendation for all the artwork, including the 2 we will be talking about today. Second, we notified the mural artist in April that we were considering deaccession. And we did not have contact information for the sculpture artist, unfortunately. The City Art Board approved the recommendation to deaccession at their May 8th meeting. First is a mural on the Rio Grande Theater. In 2014, the Court Youth Center, which is now Alma de Arte Charter High School, commissioned a local artist, Sebastian Valesquez, to paint a mural on the west wall of the Rio Grande Theater with permission from the city. The center paid for all expenses. According to Irene Oliver Lewis, who was then director of the center, they knew the mural was going to be exposed to the desert sun and elements and gave it about a 5-year lifespan. So we're way beyond that. Ms. Oliver Lewis reached out to the artist, who no longer lives in New Mexico. I also reached out to him on Instagram, and the artist very recently contacted us. He understands something needs to be done with it, and he expressed an interest in patching up the mural at a cost until we decide what will replace it. And Ms. Irene Oliver Lewis wished she could be here, but she definitely supports the deaccession. As you can see in these photos, the paint is faded and large sections of it are peeling away. The consultant's recommendation was to remove all the old paint. This can be done, which by the way we would need to do anyway to prepare it for a new mural. The decision of what to put there, if anything, can be made later. Next is the Missouri Row Eagle. So you can see here, inside the little circle, the red circle, is the sculpture. And this is Missouri Avenue, and Solano's over here somewhere, but it's over there, hidden behind that tree. The wooden eagle sculpture is located on Missouri Avenue near Solano Drive. The artist's name is Richard Gonzalez, as far as we know. The only information I was able to find on this sculpture was that it was possibly part of the Missouri Bouts Realignment Project. A carving on the eagle says 08-05, number 157, as you can see there, with his initials. If that's a date, it doesn't align with the Missouri project, which was done in the 90s, but I have heard from people who say they remember seeing it earlier than 2005. The eagle looks as if it was carved into a dead tree in that location, or they might have sunk it into the ground. It's hard to tell. Here you can see in more detail. The assessment we did found the condition is extremely poor. The core is rotted, the beak is broken off, and the eagle is in danger of falling over at any time. It cannot be repaired or restored. The consultant was concerned that it could be a safety hazard and strongly encouraged us to remove it. We would like to do that and destroy it. And I did go there in person the other day because after all these winds, I wanted to know if it was still there. And it is, but I just barely pushed against it, and yes, it wobbles a lot. So here are your options, and I will stand for questions.
Thanks, Essie. Anyone have any questions? No? Seeing none. Teresa?
This is on a motion to approve Resolution 25-141. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next is item 8.6, resolution number 25-142, a resolution determining the sufficiency of the petition regarding ordinance number 3090, also known as realized Las Cruces.
Move to approve.
Second.
Christine.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. I'm Christine Rivera. I'm your city clerk. The resolution before you today is the petition regarding Ordinance 3090, or as we like to call it, Realize Las Cruces. So a little background, Ordinance 3090 was adopted by you on February 18th, 2025. The city charter does state that anyone can have an ordinance reconsidered if they file a petition within 30 days of adoption. So the charter also states that initiative and referendum petitions must have a total of 15% of the last 2 elections cast for city council. So for this petition, that came out to 3,240 valid signatures. And the other thing that the charter states is that the council will have the final determination and approval regarding the sufficiency of a petition. So the timeline for this petition, the original petition was filed on March 19, 2025. I then had 25 business days to validate signatures. This was done by April 2nd, 2025, and a letter of insufficiency was mailed to the petitioner. We had a total of 1950 valid signatures from that round. The petitioner then had 15 days to file a supplementary petition. She notified me of her intent to do that on April 17th, 2025. She then had 15 days to obtain additional signatures on a supplementary form in compliance with the charter. So the supplementary or amended petition was filed in my office on May 2nd, 2025. I then had 5 business days to validate those signatures, and a letter of insufficiency was mailed on May 6, 2025, with an additional 597 valid signatures added. So the grand total of valid signatures was 2,547, which was less than the 3,240 required. So today you only have 2 options related to the petition. The first one is if you vote yes, you will approve the sufficiency of the petition and that it complied with the city charter, or you will vote no, and that means that you deny the sufficiency of the petition and that it did not comply with the city charter. And so I will stand for any questions.
All right, thank you, Christine. Any questions from council? Okay.
Yeah,
Mayor Pro
just
Tem.
to clarify, Christine, thank you for the presentation. So in voting no, that would mean realize becomes the law.
Mayor Councilor Bencomo, that would mean that realize would go back into effect. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And just to clarify one more time, the required number of signatures necessary to move forward with either repealing realize or putting it on the ballot was 3,240, and at no point was that met.
Mayor Councilor Bencomo, that is correct.
Thank you, Christine.
Okay, seeing no other questions by council, I know there were some members of the public that wanted to speak. Just know that on the city charter, on an item that's being discussed, we can do a minimum of 2 minutes. So anybody that wants to speak on this, I'll allow 2 minutes. I know I have received an email from Sarah, and Sarah, I will allow you the 3 minutes to speak if you want to come up. And again, I just want to stick to the regulations, the law, the city charter that we have followed. It's not the personnel, it's not the staff. Thank you.
Mayor, as discussed by email, I need 7 minutes in order to adequately explain the petition to council before you vote. I will wait while you reset the timer.
Now, we'll give you the 3 minutes like I had informed you.
Okay, so both Beth and Patsy are prepared to donate their time to me
No,
today.
we're not relinquishing any minutes or substituting. By charter, I can give up to 2 minutes. I'm allowing you 3.
City Council and Mayor, I'm Sarah Smith. What you are voting on today is whether the city will uphold the people's fundamental right to petition government as enshrined in our state and federal constitutions. I am here today to present to you the petition to put Realize Las Cruces, the ordinance which you recently enacted, on the ballot in the next election. The petition was signed by 4,671 Las Cruces residents. From the beginning, the city has made the petition process as difficult as possible. We were not allowed to collect signatures electronically. We were not allowed to use an electronic copy of the 400-page ordinance. So instead, all volunteers were required to carry bulky printed copies of the ordinance, which was over 30,000 pages to be printed at a cost of over $1,000. We were required to collect 3,240 signatures. We collected over 4,600, yet about 1,200 of those signatures have now been thrown out without due process. Let me explain. The city charter gives a 30-day deadline for the initial round of signature collection. The city burned up a week of this time because it took 4 days for me to receive the petition from the clerk, and then there was another 3-day delay because the city attorneys provided false information about who was allowed to collect signatures. I was not able to train volunteers until I knew who was allowed to collect signatures. Attorney Becker finally acknowledged the error and said in an email to me that I should, quote, "please pardon the error for which the city attorney's office bears responsibility." In fairness, I requested that we be given that week of time back for collecting signatures, but the city attorneys refused, even though the city was at complete fault for delaying the petition and giving false information simply because it did not know its own process. Nearly 800 of the signatures that are being thrown out were collected during that extra week that we should have been given in the first place. With regards to at least 400 other signatures that are being thrown out without due process, we tried to follow your rules, but the city would not give clear instructions. The city charter allows for an amendment process so that additional signatures may be submitted. The charter does not specify that signature collection must cease once the first batch of petitions is turned in. Furthermore, the instructions provided to me by the city clerk did not specify that we were not allowed to continue collecting signatures. For clarity, we asked the city attorneys, but they refused to answer this question even though they knew we were continuing to collect signatures. Instead, they let us continue to collect signatures, only later to throw them out because of a reinterpretation of the charter. So we collected another 400 signatures during that time, which the city clerk has now thrown out based solely on the dates those signatures were collected. Of the remaining 3,400 signatures, the city clerk has chosen to unjustly validate hundreds of signatures of registered voters. For instance, some people had a hard time writing due to being elderly or having shaky hands. In those instances, they signed the petition, and then the volunteers filled in their address and printed name. All of these were thrown out, as it has been decided that people who have palsy are not allowed to sign a petition. In some instances, it was assumed that handwriting was that of a volunteer instead of the petition signer, when there was no evidence of that. Again, those signatures were thrown out. Beth is going to continue my comment.
You have 2 minutes. Set it at 2.
3 minutes?
2 minutes.
Council Beth Bousquet, B-O-U-S-Q-U-T is the spelling. Of the remaining 3,400 signatures, the city clerk has chosen to unjustly invalidate hundreds of signatures of registered voters. For instance, some people had a hard time writing due to being elderly or having shaky hands. In those instances, they signed the petition and then the volunteers filled in their address and printed name. These were all thrown out as the clerk has decided that people who have had a hard time writing are not allowed to sign petitions. In some instances, she assumed the handwriting was that of a volunteer and not the petition signer, even though there is no evidence to support these assumptions. Again, those signatures were all thrown out. The clerk also threw out many signatures when people signed with their nickname, even though the petition did not clearly state that the name had to match the voter registration exactly. For example, she threw out signatures when people wrote Tim instead of Timothy, Bill instead of William, Gilbert instead of Gilberto. In each case, the voter could still clearly be identified in the voter roll by the remaining information provided, but the clerk still invalidated those signatures and disenfranchised those voters. It is not clear why many of the other signatures were disqualified either, and no information from the city clerk's office was provided about why they were disqualified. Overall, we're talking about 1,500 people who are clearly listed on voter rolls, yet the clerk has invalidated their signatures. They would be allowed to vote at the polls, yet their signatures were not counted as valid on the petition. These determinations are arbitrary and capricious, and the council should overturn the clerk's decision, issue clear instructions for validation of signatures, and require recertification, including all of the signatures discussed today. If the city officials had known their own process, it's quite possible we could have met the signature goal in the city's eyes, but because it deployed a process that was unknown to both its staff and the public, we have now landed in different places with regard to which signatures should be counted. Despite each of the roadblocks, we still collected well over the required number of signatures.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll continue. Overall, the city staff have not been able to provide
Sir,
basic information.
can you state your name, please?
Dan Parrott. Overall, the city staff have not been able to provide basic information about the petition process, have been unduly burdensome on petitioners, and have not been consistent with constitutional due process principles by unreasonably restricting the signatures that were counted as valid. Despite each of the roadblocks, we still collected well over the required number of signatures from residents of Las Cruces through tireless effort by volunteers who sacrificed their time, finances, weekends, family time, and more in order to collect enough signatures. The city's actions to constantly change the rules on us during the process amounts to the city having not acted in good faith to uphold our right to petition. I understand that it has been a decade since the last referendum petition, so this was a new process for the city clerk and the attorneys. What I would ask for myself is that this go forward and allow the citizens to decide, realize Las Cruces. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other. Teresa?
I have.
I'm sorry. Yeah, if you could state your name and you have 2 minutes.
Sure. My name is Joe Lust, and I would like to mention this again, as I did when I first spoke, that I am not a classist. I carried this ordinance and explained to each person who wanted to sign the petition that 400-page plus ordinance was already passed on February 18th by the City Council 6-1. The majority of people wanted to know why such a sweeping zoning change wasn't brought to a citywide vote. I couldn't answer that, and I still can't answer that. One resident got very angry with me and called me a liar for 5 minutes and said that the council would not do such a thing. I had to just turn away and walk away because he just would not accept this. Another resident was shocked to hear his name had been rejected. This resident was the retired fire chief. He said that just 2 days prior to me coming to his house to reclaim his signature, he had spoken to a member of the council and expressed deep concerns as to how this zoning change had been handled. He told me that something of this magnitude should have been taken to a citywide vote. Everyone that signed thanked me for taking the time out of my life to collect signatures so that this zoning ordinance could be taken to a citywide vote. There were people who wanted to sign twice. If I ran across somebody who had already signed, I told them they could not do that. People that were outside the city limits were also telling friends and family to sign. I implore the council to allow this zoning ordinance to be taken to a citywide vote. Thank you.
Yeah, if you want to come up, I'll just go, well, go ahead, come on up, Fred, and then from here on, who on this side, on my left, wants to speak? Okay, I'll go row by row next. Come on up, Fred. State your name, you have 2 minutes.
My name is Fred Huff. 2 elections ago, I volunteered to observe the counting of the mail-in ballots at the county building on Lakeside Drive. In observing the counting of the mail-in ballots, I was shocked that there was no vetting of the signatures on these ballots. If it had as much as an X on the signature line, it was to be accepted. This told me that the county clerk had no concerns about the integrity of our elections by letting these ballots be accepted without being verified, without verifying each signature and making sure that the ballot was legitimate. I felt this violated my rights as a voter. Fast forward to the Realize Las Cruces petition process. where the city clerk worked overtime to find any reason to reject signatures. This appears to be discrimination to me by throwing out the ones, as Ms. Smith mentioned, about the people or the elderly or the other people that had to be helped get their signature signed. The pattern I am seeing is that our local clerks establish rules to get the outcomes that they want. And I don't think that this is what we want as Americans. Thank you.
I'm Mary Jo Birch, and I knocked on 800 doors. And I can tell you that most people had no idea about Realize Las Cruces. Absolutely no idea, especially the elderly. They didn't know. Apparently your method of communication was through social media. I don't get on social media, and I am elderly too. So that in itself was really unfair. The second thing is I did find people who were in favor of this, and they wanted a little grocery store in their neighborhood. So I could see a large grocery store that was less than a half a mile from where they live. I said, why don't you just walk to that grocery store? And they said, it is no longer safe to walk in Las Cruces. The density is another issue that people have a really hard time with. We do not have the infrastructure basically to support all the traffic that will come from some of these projects. A lot of my voters that were disenfranchised were the Cruces who put Chris instead of Christopher, Oswald who failed to put the O on the end of his name, Rosa who put her name as Rosa when it should have been Rosita. The democracy is not here. I mean, really, it needs to be voted upon. And in addition, why don't we innovate? Why don't we build an affordable house out of what we have out in the desert now? We have tons of rocks, tons of sand, and put the juvenile delinquents out there with their parents. They can get to know each other better while they're working on building an affordable house. Plant bamboo. We don't need wood, and we can build the base out of rock. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, in the blue shirt.
My name's Jim Hurst. This matter belongs before a court. I have no idea what representations are being made and no way to judge their veracity. They are not made under oath. They are not sworn. They are not cross-examined. So it's hard to accept any of this as evidence. Most of these people are good citizens, and if their arguments are valid, they should hold up in court. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Councilors. My name is Paula Groves. I signed the petition and participated in the circulation of the petition. I like to bring your attention to the Las Cruces Municipal Code, Part 1, Article 8, Section 8.048, where we outline the procedure after filing this petition. However, this municipal code does not outline a basis for determining validity of signatures on one of these petitions. So the municipal code is lacking here. However, the city clerk used a process to invalidate signatures. That process is not made public in the municipal code anywhere. So how can we know as citizens that the validation process was correct? Allowing invalidation of signatures based on whatever reasoning is not included in Article 8. The petition provided by the city clerk did not state that the name needed to match the voter registration exactly. It stated printed name and signature, and it required that signers be a qualified voter of the city of Las Cruces, New Mexico. So I implore you to reconsider the validation of these signatures. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the fourth or fifth row on my left, yeah.
Hi, my name is Sylvia Yancey. I'm from District 2, and I'll make this short. I want to emphasize the fact that even with the ample time to gather signatures to oppose realized Las Cruces, that it is clear that there were not enough valid signatures provided, and that the public majority has shown support for this ordinance. Providing the opportunity to have local neighborhood markets, parks, and cafes in single-family home areas will foster more community among neighbors. This will also be a great step towards moving away from a car-centric society, something that we desperately need. And I want to quote something that one of my friends wanted to say, but they had to go back to work. She says, "I ask that this council vote no on resolution number 25-142. I'm in full support of Realize Las Cruces, just as a majority of this city council has been since February. Those opposed were given more than enough time to collect enough signatures than what the statute allowed for, and we ought to just move forward and allow the city to grow." Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Lucas Herndon, resident of District 2. I too am in support of Realize Las Cruces, as I was in February, as I was during the planning process last year. And so I would encourage the city council to vote no and uphold what is clearly not enough valid signatures. I am also a voter registration agent for the county. I'm also a county officiant, so if anybody's looking to get married, hit me up. And you have to write your name right. It's just a thing you know. And the thing that I have to just be amused by slightly is the hypocrisy of a number of people here who in other times, in other places, have called for stricter controls about who can vote, how you have to vote, what you might have to show when you show up to vote, where you can vote, what country you were born in originally to, if you can vote. All of a sudden want a lot of leeway when it comes to who gets to sign their petitions. So that's just kind of funny. They were given ample time. They were given an extension of that time. They were communicated with, and they didn't reach the number. And, it happens. So, please verify that by voting no. Thanks.
Anyone else on that same row, if not the following? Next row.
Hello, Mayor and Councilors. My name is Sarai Guerrero. I live in District 1. I hope that you all vote no. Like it was previously mentioned, you should be putting your government name when you sign on petitions. Not shortened names, not only your middle names or what you go by, your name. And I really hope that you guys vote no on this, because I heard someone say that it's a half mile to the nearest supermarket. Sure, it's a half mile to the nearest supermarket, but without sidewalks, without maybe bike lanes, because maybe this person might not drive, or without uncracked roads, uncracked sidewalks, or whatever. How can you get there safely, and how can you get there back safely? And I think Realize Las Cruces will kind of help with that problem. In a way that people aren't realizing because they are so used to their cars. And I wish I could afford a car, but that's a different conversation, right? But I really hope that you all vote no, because I really, really think that this will be really good for the city, because it will allow children to go outside and maybe go to a park, maybe get a little bit closer to their friends and go hang out at a cafe. Maybe they can go buy sodas at the little supermarket down the street and then go back to their house and watch movies. I don't know. But that's all I had to say. Thank you for listening.
Good afternoon. Both Mayor, City Councilor, City Manager.
My name is Albert, and I am a resident of Las Cruces. In February 18th, this council voted in favor of Realize Las Cruces Development Code. This initiative seeks to implement a series of changes of zoning and building ordinances that help modernize the city's development code for the first time in nearly 25 years. I wasn't able to make it in person because of work, but I do consider the discourse that takes place here very important. I'm happy to be able to join you all today to personally state my support for this initiative. This new code facilitates the development of diverse housing types, allowing the city to provide more affordable and accessible housing options for residents. By promoting mixed-use developments and revitalizing underutilized areas, I believe this new code supports economic growth and the creation of vibrant, walkable neighborhoods. I fully believe this ordinance will be beneficial to the development of our city as a whole. Additionally, I think the members of our community who will benefit the most don't usually have the privilege to have their voices represented in these meetings. I am aware that a lot of food service workers, medical staff, mothers, teachers, students, people who are disabled, or people who are unhoused, or simply too caught up in a cycle of living paycheck to paycheck, do not get the opportunity that we have here to engage directly with our local government. This City Council's approval of Realize Las Cruces Development Code on February 18, 2025 marked a significant step towards modernizing the city's zoning and building ordinances. Reconsidering this vote would undermine the extensive planning, community engagement, and strategic vision that informed its development. I believe maintaining the current course will ensure that Las Cruces continues to evolve in a manner that benefits all residents and not just the few that can make it to a city council meeting at 1 p.m. on a Monday. Thank you guys for your time.
Greeting Council, my name is Jay Choate. I'm a resident of District 5, and I don't know if anyone's ever actually had to go and register to vote or to fill out government documents, but typically they don't let you do shorthand. Typically you have to fill out the documents accurately and have accurate information. I'd also, I guess, like to note generally with Realize itself, if we look at larger cities that have a lot of these older codes that heavily incentivize R1 zoning or just single-family housing zoning being the primary method of housing people, if you look at some of these cities that have kept them for decades and decades and they sprawl out and become these large metropolitan areas, they end up in a debt trap because they don't have enough revenue to really maintain their infrastructure, which means you have to raise the costs on the people that live in the city. So either you raise taxes or you start going into debt because you didn't profit out. 20 years from now, all of our infrastructure is going to need to be fixed again, and so they have to work with that. And at the end of the day, every city has to deal with that. I also just generally believe it's better to make it so our communities have more walkable environments, have it safer for younger kids, teenagers, even people well into their 30s and 40s and adulthood, just engaging in the community and actually showing up to places like cafes, like smaller supermarkets, engaging with each other instead of all being piled into homes and then go into their car, go off to work because it's 20 minutes away, then go back home and then go back in their house. Or they have to be forced to engage with each other in either academic environments, religious environments. They're forced to go into an environment to engage with people for a certain reason instead of just being there to relax. And with our current zoning system, before Realize, that was incentivizing that. So with Realize, if we can diversify how people can engage with each other, make it so they have access to more affordable housing, and make it so it's more renewable and sustainable for the city in the long term, I think ultimately we should support that initiative, so I hope you would vote no on this. Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Lamont Mooney, resident of Las Cruces, and I am currently missing work and pay to be here to comment. The worst thing about this city is that it's designed for cars instead of humans. When Realize Las Cruces was passed in February, it gave me a rare slice of real hope for the future. I respect the small but very vocal group's efforts to oppose this. I have worked on petitions before, and I will just say expecting a 100% validation rate is absolutely ridiculous. What's obvious from the lack of valid signatures is that the vast majority of us in this community want human beings prioritized in our urban design. Thank you.
Mayor, councilors, Steve Coletti. Many of you have expressed concerns in the past about the state of our democracy. We're here today to exercise one of those elements, the redress of grievances. Per city code, we launched our petition drive to have Realize Las Cruces ordinance placed on the ballot. We were able to collect over 4,600 signatures in that effort. For comparison, I'd like to throw out another number, 6,322. That is the grand total of all votes to put the 6 counselors on this diocese to get you elected in your last election. 6 different organized campaigns were only able to collect 6,322 votes. But our ragtag grassroots effort, with very limited and regulated time, was able to collect 4,600 signatures. That should speak volumes to the opposition of this ordinance.
Mayor, if you didn't allow finger snapping last time, I encourage you to not allow that kind of clapping this time.
Let's just be respectful right now. If you could please just hold your applause till he's done.
So the decision before you today is simple. Are you truly a supporter of the democratic process, or is that just a talking point when it hits your purpose? Are you willing to support the process and honor the spirit of the law, or thwart that process by rigidly applying the letter of the law and the administrative hurdles the city has placed? Today, the ball is in your court. I hope you will listen to the citizens of Las Cruces and hold this ordinance up to the light of day on the ballot. One last note, while today is not a debate to the content of Realize, my hope is that through this process, we will end up with most of the ordinance. It is almost a good ordinance. It just needs a few tweaks so that it can serve all of Las Cruces. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Councilor, and staff. My name is Beth Bardwell, and I'm speaking today on my own behalf. I would ask you to vote no and support the city's well-thought-out reforms to the city's development and zoning codes, and for following the rule of law governing petitions for referendums. I believe the city charter language is clear, and following the rule of law is a foundation of democracy and protects against arbitrariness in government action. I think these development and zoning code reforms are even more important given that the federal government is on track to pass a highly regressive budget with major cuts in programs that benefit lower-income Americans. And while the federal government is turning a blind eye to lower-income Americans, I believe these reforms will help us build a city that is more compassionate and leave the city in a better place for all residents. Thank you so much.
Mayor, councilors, I want to bring attention to those previous young no's that spoke before me. My name is Ruth Jari.
Yeah,
Sorry about that. They're articulate, they're our future, and they're correct. This city needs to be a walking city. Realize Las Cruces will bring us to the next generation, and they are speaking that. Realize Las Cruces went through vetting. It has been in the making for 4 years. I've attended public meetings. I've attended TAE, Technical Advisory Committee meetings. I've attended your meetings. I've read articles in the newspaper. Why come to this party so late and demand democracy? I encourage you to vote no, no, no. Thank you.
Councilors, good afternoon. My name is Mary Wasson.
in answer to her question, why to come to the party so late, as one of the previous speakers mentioned, most residents, as we collected signatures, had absolutely no idea about what had just happened after this got passed. So today, I would just ask you to consider whether or not you endorse this, as you consider the standards by which you judge. The standards for voting are much easier than just signing a petition. Signing this petition was very strict. Many people were rejected by the county clerk or city clerk. I have my neighbor across the street, Jim L. Willis, living at 4400 La Cienega, was rejected because his voter card said Jimmy L. on La Cienega. It was a reasonable match. He should have been accepted. My friend Christine was rejected because she is recovering from a stroke, could not sign for herself. Well, she signed her own signature. She needed help with the print. She was rejected. Again, the standards are not, they were stricter than just trying to obtain a ballot. If you look on the voter registration card, there is a block 10 that allows a person to have assistance to specify who assisted. So I would just ask you today to consider seriously, are you really allowing all people to voice their opinion? Thank you.
Afternoon, Mayor, Council. My name is Michael Harris, resident business owner in the city. From a policy perspective, to me, this sounds relatively cut and dry as far as the city is concerned. Vote no, the signatures were not collected, they were invalid. I think maybe there's some technicalities, and if those technicalities have merit and are worked out by the courts later, so be it. But as for now, it seems fairly cut and dry. And then I would also add to remind you all of this, and also everyone in the audience, that there's plenty of ways to change this ordinance in the future. The ordinance itself has a 1-year review period. I noticed that in it, which was quite clear. So in a year, y'all are supposed to come back to it and review it every year and make changes. And that's the opportunity for the democratic process to proceed. Everyone here who has problems with it, myself included, can come back and talk to you all in the intervening time and at that time and make some changes. Also, if there really are 4,600 that many people and they decide in November that they don't like what this council did, they can boot you out. And that's democracy, right? So we voted you in, you made a choice. I think we should stick with it. As for the actual contents of the ordinance, I've been talking to many people, myself, friends, family, business colleagues, fellow business owners, and the more that I look at it, it's fine. As it is, it's actually pretty good. There's a phased-in implementation period, I believe for the next 11 months or so. Both zoning rules are kind of in play, and like I said, there's potential for redress. And it does also address a lot of the sky is falling, narratives. It specifically is against that. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on my left side? Okay, we'll move over to the right on the first row. Anyone? Second row?
Good afternoon, City Council. Tim Jenkins here. The answer is that we did not come late and demand democracy. Democracy, it is of the people, by the people, and for the people. That is the Constitution of the United States of America. And we tried in every way possible to follow every single rule. And the fact that you guys did not have your things together And between the first signatures and the second signatures, we sent emails, we called, we sent texts, and we asked and said, we are still gathering signatures. Is that okay? We cannot answer that question. That was the answer that we got. So we continued to collect signatures because you guys couldn't answer the question. And then come to find out that after all that, every single one of those signatures got thrown out because you guys couldn't do your job and you guys couldn't give us the right answer. We are not fighting for anything except for the people to have this vote. The people of Las Cruces. That's all we're asking. Why are you guys so scared to have the people vote? Is it because we wasted over $1 million on this? I mean, like, what is it? Why is it so hard that the people can't vote on this? That's all we're asking. I don't understand. We did collect the right amount of signatures and they were thrown out because of your mistake. Let's make that clear.
Anyone on the fourth row, fifth? Anyone else on the right side? Yeah.
Mayor, City Council, my name is Dominic Boutel. I mostly came to watch as I was looking to see what the answers are going to be on this Realize Las Cruces event. I myself am a 21-year resident of Las Cruces. I'm also directly related in the real estate business. I also have children growing up in this community. I am in full support of Realize Las Cruces. I don't think everybody understands what's involved with planning, zoning, and development, nor the things that are involved with the funds and where they come from, the way people and businesses decide where they're going to go and how they're going to develop. I think it's very important that this city make some positive progress into the future. That's it. Thank you.
Can we help them with a handheld or something?
Hello, my name is William Moreland. I am part of District 7, and I'd like to say, even though I was one of those people that didn't quite know what Realize Las Cruces was until somewhat recently, I am in full support of voting no today because Las Cruces, by and all, is one of the best cities I've lived in terms of accessibility, but there are some issues. And if Realize Las Cruces is going to help fix those issues, I'm all for it. So thank you for trying to help modernize Las Cruces.
That's fine. We'll get. Thank you. Anyone else on my right side? Oh, is there somebody? Yeah, you were hiding. Yeah. Come on up.
Okay. Hello again, Council. My name is Trent Scribner. I was here to speak on Realize when you guys voted on it initially. To the people for whom this came as a surprise, I kind of want to say I remember being asked about this. The city sent out like a thing asking people like, hey, we're going to be doing some zoning changes. What do you want to see from that? That was either a couple months or a year before it went up to vote here on the council, I remember. So it's not a shock, it's just people don't follow zoning laws. I get it, it's boring. I talk to people about it on a regular basis now and all my friends are bored with me. But everyone who I talk to about it, everybody who I know, who I've spoken to about it personally, is cool with it. Everybody's really excited about it, man. It's the landed element in the town who's worried that it may lower their property values or that there may be like poor people in their neighborhood, God forbid. And that's not going to be a problem, man, because if you want to stop poverty, if you don't care to look at the poor people, which I know a lot of you fellas don't, then we need cheaper housing. And eliminating single-family zoning lowers housing costs when used in conjunction with a bunch of other things. Realize Las Cruces is an important first step. That's what it is. It's a first step. We just need to be allowed to take it. We don't have time. There's a wave of poverty coming to Las Cruces fast, fast, fast. We got to do something now. We have to start building the houses yesterday, man. And also, it'd be nice, coffee shop in the neighborhood and all that. Don't be scared, and you didn't get the signatures, man. I'm out.
Hello, Mayor, City Council. My name is Fred Miller. And just on the question of these petition signatures, I would certainly not have signed this petition myself in the past. Any petition I've signed for anything to go on a ballot, I've always been told the name on the petition needs to match the name on my voter registration. That just stands to reason. So the biggest complaint about the invalidation of the signatures seems to be that the names don't match the voter registration names. That sounds appropriate to me. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, my name is Larry Cedillo. I do not live in the city of Las Cruces. I live in the county. But I've been helping the people that want to make a change. And I'm going to tell you the truth today. You need to listen of what we're trying to tell you. And everybody here has a right to speak their own mind, no matter what it is. And that's why we live in America. You have a right to make decisions. I believe in God. He puts me first in everything I do. And I go through his guides. So all of us have here the same interest to improve Las Cruces, not to make Cruces bad or whatever else. If you're not putting one side against the other, then you're not being positive. You're not thinking about everybody. This is for everybody. One of the reasons that we want to stay the same, so we do want to make changes. I hit a lot of houses. A lot of people told me, they never told me about this. Social media is good, but it doesn't reach everyone. We have to change the way we have to contact people. That has to change. The other thing, too, is if you put an apartment complex in front of where you bought your house because you decided to live in Sonoma or wherever, and you can't see the mountains no more, it changes who you are. Everybody here decided to live in a certain place in this town. If something happens there that changes your view of what you really appreciate, why you live in that house in that suburb or whatever, it's going to affect your life. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about decision to live where you want to live. If you want to, in the past, these contractors could have built a lot of these places you're talking about, a little store or whatever. They didn't do it. They had the opportunity to do it. Now you're wanting to make a change for yourself. Did this come from you, or did it from somebody from the East Coast or the West Coast? Who made you decide that this is the best for Las Cruces? We need to investigate every aspect of it before we make a final decision. Let the people of Las Cruces decide. If they want it, they'll vote for it. If they don't want it, they won't vote for it. But you really need to consider everyone. That's the key to our survival.
Okay. Your time's up, sir. Thank you. Yeah, come on up.
Hello, my name is Lisa Parrott. I'm a resident of District 6. I had different things to say, but by the time I got here, I think I need to change it a little bit. What we're considering today, you all have already passed Realize Las Cruces. That's not what's being discussed today. What's being discussed today is, did we do a good job on getting the petition signatures to you correctly, and did we follow the process that we were given? I have been doing petitions since 2000. I co-chaired the successful Las Cruces Public School recall, so we got a lot of signatures. I have never seen a petition that did not say printed name as registered. The first time I laid eyes on this one, I noticed that, and I thought, okay, is this an oversight or what? It left you confused as to what you needed to do. Talking to people, if you're on their front porch and you say, well, I need to look up your address to make sure it matches the voter rolls, they think you're crazy. I would ask them anyway, but you know, hey, you're on their front porch. They know, they live there, you know. It should have been very clear that you are required to have your printed name as registered. Then there would have been cut out a lot of this process. I collected from Santa Fe. I was in Santa Fe until March the 22nd, working my 10th legislative session. Even the Sunday before you voted on the 18th of February, I sent you all an email asking you to consider some of the buildings that could be rehabbed into affordable housing downtown. When I got back and unpacked from 2 months of being gone, I collected 23 signatures before the 17th of April and 66 after, and this was up until the very deadline. I was still out knocking doors the last day that we were doing this. These people didn't know about this. They have a right to know about this. We made a good faith effort to do what we needed to do, and we would like you to vote to have the clerk continue to authorize these signatures and be checked out. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay.
I have some comments I'd like to make, Mayor.
Oh, Councilor Carranti. Anyone else?
Folks.
Yes. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thanks. Where do I start? After the big lie of 2020, I am not shocked by what I'm hearing here today. I lost, so the process must have been unfair. And I just want to first and foremost thank Christine and the attorney's office for your integrity in upholding this process, for reviewing every single signature, even though it was clear, even in the first round, that they did not have enough signatures. And I'm just not surprised by the kind of narrative that you are trying to create now regarding the lack of integrity. When the petitioners, when you lied, you broke the rules, you didn't carry the petition around with you, you manipulated people, and you exploited people's worst fears about their neighbors. And so for you to come here and talk about the integrity of the clerk's process is wild. And I'm not even going to rehash the importance of Realize and that it was over a 4-year process. And if, as a resident, you get invited to participate, whether it's through mail or social media, and you look at it and you throw it away, not to be corny, but politics is not a spectator sport. You also have to take some responsibility around how you engage. If you want to take close-up pictures of me, I'll meet you afterwards so you can get my good side if you want. Okay. It is not a spectator sport. You have to do some engagement in your community as well. And the incredible thing about Realize was not East Coast or West Coast people, the number of people who gave their time over 4 years, developers, folks in advocacy organizations, just residents in general, gave their time to volunteer committees, to give their expertise as developers, their expertise as realtors in this process. And I know now you are trying to frame it as if we didn't do our due diligence. That is not true. That is inherently a lie. And then you went out into the community and you lied some more. And you know, I have this flyer in front of me where you talked about these are the bad things of Realize, apartment complexes. So you can't tell me you can't say you're not against affordable housing and multifamily housing when you literally are. That is literally the core of this petition. This flyer then says gas stations will be allowed in neighborhoods with a special use permit. That is a lie. SUPs for gas stations only on collector and higher usage roadways, not on local streets. And then you said housing costs will increase because housing developers will be required to pay full cost to build parks in neighborhoods. I know, I mean, unless you had developers who were helping you collect petitions, but the developers were not against Realize. They were at the table every step of the way. And in fact, we just had a work session about park impact fees. And ultimately, that is so out of context, like that is so manipulative. It is so out of context to say, guess what? House prices are already high, and they have nothing to do with park impact fees or Realize, for many other reasons. I now live in an NH13. Sad someone just left. I know that Mr. Jenkins put everybody's address on the internet and said that we all lived in single-family homes, neighborhoods. I actually live now in an NH3 neighborhood. Up the block from me is a gas station. Literally up the block from me is a gas station. Across the street from that gas station is a mobile home park. Up the block from that mobile home park, a multifamily housing development is being built. The house right next to me just went on sale for $240,000. I bought my house in 2019 for $140,000. Realize is not making houses expensive. What Realize will do is help create a greater diversity of housing that we so desperately need. And if you are against that and you sign this petition because you are inherently against multifamily housing and a diverse of housing going up in good neighborhoods with good parks, then I would ask you to reflect on where your segregationist tendencies come from.
Councilor Kerr.
That was fire and covered a lot of the things that I was thinking more clearly than I can highlight. But I can attest to the number of folks who were calling me and saying, someone came to my door and told me things that I know aren't true. They menaced me by suggesting that my neighborhood would become devalued and with potentially diverse people. I know folks were put off by much of what they heard at the door, including a series of lies. So I would say, I appreciate the process that we've laid out, and also that, it is possible to do a petition campaign, I think, in the time frame that is outlined. I was actually surprised that there were a bunch of extra weeks added on. That seemed really benefit of the doubty to me. I know the last successful petition campaign definitely finished in the first set of petition signatures. So that sort of gave me a strong picture of what was happening, and all the folks who called me and said, I signed up because someone told me something that wasn't true to get me to sign, or people who were saying, these, I didn't sign, but wow, I heard a lot of things that were really alarming to me. So I figured, all of those folks, once we sort of look at the calculus of the number of folks who had regrets for signing, would also be a pretty big dent in the number and the total, but we don't have to go there for that. I'll tell you about one of my residents who wanted to build a carport. He was really excited. He gave inputs in several versions of Realize over 2 years. He added his inputs. He also does a lot of residential remodeling. He wanted to build a carport and an ADU, and he was just waiting for Realize to pass. And when it did, he was ready to submit his permits to community development, and he heard that there was a petition campaign and that he would have to wait. And in that time, about 60 days, that he had to wait for this streamlined process that allows people to do what they want with their own personal property. The cost of the materials, due to political factors that he was going to use, increased by something like 64% in the days that this petition was being collected. So I just want to sort of say to the folks who are out there collecting petitions, know that there was a cost, right? There was a cost because folks don't like to be lied to. And there was a cost to all the folks who are counting on Realize to really enable them to do what they choose with their property. And so we hear from those folks too. So just so you know, what appears on a petition isn't the only input that we've had along this process. And so I just want to sort of give another gratitude to Mayor Pro Tem for really talking about what's at stake here. And I do want to just sort of say, the idea that City Council should send everything to a vote, that's known as direct democracy. And I think it's fascinating that folks are demanding direct democracy on a 400-page zoning reform. Somehow we passed the budget without a single public comment. I don't know if any of you, I thought that's what everyone was here for today, because there's something else at stake. There are things that we make decisions about that we are trusted to make decisions about as City Council, and we're expected to do the homework, and we're expected to get public participation, and we're expected to have integrity of our words and our actions and our money. And sending everything to the vote would be, I have no doubt that Realize would pass easily if we did send it to a vote, but that's not how we do things. We have a job to do, and it is making policy, deciding the budget, and making Realize happen today. So I call the question. I uncall the question.
You're calling it?
She uncalled the question.
Oh, uncalled. Okay.
Yvonne made a sad face.
Councilor Flores, go ahead.
Well, I think Graham had her light on before I did.
Okay.
Right?
Councilor Grant, if you want to go.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick. I'm just going to have one comment on Realize specifically and one on the process. But first, thank you, Christine, for your integrity, your expertise, your grace on this. I know that you put in a lot of extra work, and I appreciate that. Also to our attorneys and those in the legal office who were supporting throughout. On Realize specifically, this, as I mentioned at the February vote, is one of the few things that I have kind of seen throughout my tenure as a councilor. Took this seat in January of 22. Realize was already happening, so it was already well into it. Then, we ended up with about a 4-year process. And I saw, quarterly updates. We had work sessions, all of which are advertised far beyond social media, not to mention 30+ public meetings, again, not merely carried out on social media. But Realize is what got me interested in zoning in the first place. And one of the things that I have found myself doing the most as a city councilor when I look at how big the challenges are for our community, for our country, what can I, as a local elected, really do to have an impact? And as I got into zoning, what I saw over and over is that by making more inclusive zoning, I, as a local elected, can affect so many important community challenges. Having more inclusive zoning and moving away from an exclusionary zoning code is one of the few things where I feel like I can have a tremendous impact. And that goes to the second point, and I'm kind of echoing Councilor Corin here. This is the essence of representative government. You voted us in, and you, as Mr. Harris pointed out, you will have the opportunity, well, you're not going to have the opportunity to vote me out because you'll be done with me at the end of the year anyway because I'm not running again. But this is representative government. And I can speak for myself and several of my colleagues up here that, we did the homework, we did the reading. Most of us did reading way beyond the reading that you would see in the packet. And to say that we are somehow overstepping our bounds to make this decision, I disagree wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Councilor Flores.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say that Realize just didn't happen when it went to a vote or when people became aware of it. As I've said before, this is my 8th year on City Council, but prior to being on City Council, I was active with the League of Women Voters. And after, anyway, all of that being said, we were very well aware, especially Sharon Thomas, who was District 6 counselor before I was, who worked very hard at developing a city that was well planned in terms of being inclusive, in terms of having the right roads, bike lanes, the way the entire design. And my first year on council, I was privileged to have been a delegate, self-appointed no less, because it came out of my own pocket, to go to Savannah, Georgia, along with then Councilor Gil Sorg and former Councilor Sharon Thomas. And what I saw there was amazing. And I can't remember the name of the organization, but it's an organization that focuses on how you develop a city to make it livable, enjoyable, inclusive, fun. It was just amazing, and it was, I think, a 3 or 4 day stay there, and it was amazing how it opened my eyes. And then before that too, I know that there was Elevate Las Cruces that was in process, and I remember that as a resident, I was aware of it, and there were meetings all over the city. And then once I was on council, I remember, and everyone who showed up had the privilege or whatever the word is, to put a post-it on what they wanted to see in their city. And I just want to tell all of you here that I don't remember seeing any of you there, maybe Lucas, because he's everywhere. But other than Lucas, and Fred Miller, right. So people were very much engaged and very aware of what the options were, and you could put your little post-it wherever you wanted. And there were several, and then after I was elected, those continued. And I would like to say also that in my trip to Savannah, Georgia, back in 2018, I was just amazed. I was in awe of our community development department and the work that they do, and the dedication they have to making this a better world for those of us who live here in Las Cruces. So I just want, do I want a gas station built across the street from my house? Well, probably not. But that's not going to happen. I mean, it's kind of like, it's like Chicken Little saying, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. And guess what? The sky isn't falling. And I think there's been a lot of fear-mongering, which is generated, please forgive me, but because I am a woman and because I am a minority and I went to a segregated school in the first grade in El Paso, Texas, I can see one when I see, I can call one when I see one. And I think a lot of you have there's something about, you don't want to be too close to people who aren't like me. Who aren't going to be able to, who may socialize with my children, or, heaven forbid, it's like the boogeyman. So, and that is my perspective, and that's what I have received from a lot of you, and all of you who came up without, different levels, displayed a lot of dislike for your fellow person, and I'll bet a lot of you are fear-mongering, church attending, or whatever, But no, seriously, you might be, but a lot of you, thank you. But that's how you come across. You're a bunch of Chicken Littles. And I also want to thank Christine, and I want you to know that Christine is our city clerk, and I will say that she knows a lot more than all of you put together. She was at one point the #1 city clerk in the United States. None of you can claim that. And right now, she's #1 in New Mexico. So for all of you who have bashed her, for all of you who have bashed the system, go and beat your heads against the sky. And that's all I have to say.
You done, Councilor Flores?
Oh, yes, I'm
Okay,
done. Well,
I'm
no,
sorry.
do you want me to go on? I'd
No,
love to.
No, thank you. Councilor Matisse?
Perdón.
Matisse wants to say something as well.
I just want to say thank you to the petitioners. I know it was hard work. And I have always been an elected official that would like the people to vote on it. I did it with gross receipts tax. I did it with the spaceport when I was mayor. And this decision, this change is so significant, this code change, that it's not just something that we should vote on. It should have been given to the voter. Because what we have here is two diverse populations. We have people that have homes in the older districts, and we have those that are in the new development. And that was an offer. They offered that maybe we could do the new development codes on the new developments and leave the older districts alone. And then we had a young man that came up, and I really appreciated his comments about tweaking it and amending it. We have a period that we can do that. But right now we have 4,700 voters that were not happy with the decision we made. And of course, we worked on it for 4 years, and we had, again, stakeholders come out. And I remember someone saying that was about 700 or 800 people that contributed. We had mailers go out, and a lot of the public knew that this was coming. But it's still evident, it still happened, and that's what I'm concerned with, is that we had over 4,500 people that didn't know about it. And that affects them. My position is it should have gone to the voter, like the city of El Paso. The people are very important, and your voice is important to me. And that's why I stand with my decisions. Thank you.
Mayor, I want to say that some of the signatures were doubled, so it wasn't over 4,500.
Okay. Brad, you wanted to say something?
Yes, Mayor, if I may, just to wrap up the staff portion of the presentation, and after listening to some of the citizen concerns, I had some things that I wanted to present to all of you that will hopefully be helpful to you in determining how you'll vote in just a few moments. But with regard to the actual final tally, there were 4,671 total. That does not take into account whether they were validated or invalidated. The total number of validated signatures as determined by the city clerk, as is her duty pursuant to our city charter, was 2,547 valid signatures. As you'll all recall, the required number of valid signatures was 3,240. So with that said, I'm going to go down a list of notes that I just made. Earlier during this item, one of our residents mentioned that there are things that were being said by quote unquote both sides, and who knows what's true and what's not true. Everything that I'm about to read to you is undoubtedly true. So with regard to procedural due process, I heard that come up. I do want to communicate with no strings attached to this statement that the city clerk did communicate reasons for invalidated signatures to the petitioner. I've heard a few times claims made that that did not happen. That absolutely happened. And that could be proven in a court of law, for example. With regard to the signatures that were gathered in the interim period, what I'll call the interim period, so between the original petition and the supplementary petition, the petitioner actually acknowledged that the petition and the supplementary petition were separate legal instruments. That happened. okay? The last referendum petition was referenced, and that was about 10 years ago. And so what I did was I went back and I looked at those orders. And what I will tell you is that the 3rd Judicial District Court found that the city clerk should receive a high level of deference with regard to validating or invalidating signatures. I'm almost done. My next point is that the city clerk did, in fact, notify the petitioner that valid signatures would be required to match voter registration rolls. That did occur. And lastly, the petitioners were informed that interim signatures would not be counted unless they were cured. And one of my attorneys was mentioned here by name today. He actually did inform petitioners that those signatures could be cured and even how to do it. And so it's my position here. I'm taking no position whatsoever with regard to the merit of the petition or not. But with regard to due process has issued. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Did you have anything else, Christine?
No, I was just going to bring up your options once again.
Okay, we're ready for a vote. Go ahead, Teresa.
This is on a motion to approve resolution number 25-142. Councilor McClure?
No.
Councilor Matisse?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
No.
Councilor Curran?
No.
Councilor Flores?
No.
Councilor Bencomo?
No.
Mayor?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is board appointments, and there are none. Notice of proposed ordinances, none. So we'll go to city council member board reports and comments. Councilor McClure?
None today, thank you.
Councilor Matisse?
No.
Councilor Graham?
None.
Sorry, I realize we're vibing with none, but I'm not, as you can imagine.
Councilor Curran? None?
I realize everyone's saying no, but I have a couple of comments. Sorry, guys. I'll make them quick. I want to give a very quick shout out to Naomi Morningstar Cruz, who is Miss Las Cruces 2025, who had an event, probably the coolest event I've ever been to in the city of Las Cruces, Fashion for Hearts. I firmly believed that it was a fashion show where dogs would be wearing outfits, but actually it was human models, and there was like a runway, and they each had dogs from the Animal Services Center to get adopted. And so it was a fundraiser for the ASCMV, and I just want to give Naomi a real shout out for organizing that on behalf of the animals at the ASCMV, and also really just see ways that we can support her in doing similar things in the future, because it was a really cool event, and I know that I'll just give a little story. Again, I know everyone's like packing up. There were models that that took the dogs down the runway, and there were, spectators on the side, as there are at runway shows. And one of the dogs, Jessica, just ran up to this gentleman, unruly, not staying on the runway. She just ran off the runway, and that guy ended up adopting her. So literally, she ran to her new future. So anyway, I just want to give Naomi a real shout out and of appreciation for the coolest event I've ever attended in Las Cruces, hands down. So thank you, Naomi. The one other item I wanted to add was the Highland Park Neighborhood Park opening, 10 a.m. on Friday, which is on Emerald Street in District 5. There'll be stuff to do, things to play on this Friday at 10 a.m. So I hope that folks will join me there for that. Those are the two main things that I have.
Thank you. Councilor Flores.
I just want to thank those of you who stayed through the meetings and see exactly what happens. And I'd also, if there's anybody in District 6 who would like to sit here, please feel free to fill out a petition and run for city council. No petition necessary? You mean anybody can run? Yep. Oh, God. You mean the one I got was phony? Okay. But anyway, I just want to let you know that if you have any friends, neighbors, relatives, dogs, cats who would love to sit up here, they're more than welcome to run. And it's good that we have these forums. I call them forums. They're meetings, but there's nothing in the books that says that there has to be public comment. There's just nothing. And most municipalities don't allow it. It's not a, it's a non sequitur, I guess. But so I really want to laud the city for its practice of allowing people to speak up and be heard. And we heard a lot today. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thanks. I just have two quick things. One, I think the presentation today around the CAP amendment on the status of the fire station, that's just deeply concerning to me. I think obviously we've made a great plan to, obviously District 4 has benefited from GO bonds for a new fire station because the quality of the old fire station was really pretty bad. We've made plans for new fire stations. I think we just have to pay more attention to the current fire stations that don't have necessarily a plan to be completely renovated. As Councilor Corn said, these aren't just buildings people come to 8 to 5. People live there half the week. I know that, obviously the GRT increase, people voted on it because they wanted, for a big reason was public safety, and that is public safety. And so I want to make sure that we keep that at the very top of the list because that was deeply concerning to me. And then just lastly, I did get some questions regarding the delayed press conference around the officer-involved shooting. And while I have expressed this to the acting city manager, and we'll talk with the city manager now that he's back about it as well, I do just have some concerns regarding the lack of, for better words, succession planning around when the chief of police has gone and who can do that in a timely manner, not only for respect of the situation, but we know that misinformation and disinformation runs rampant when people don't have facts. And so for that, I think it's important that we have a much better plan in place for when, whether it's the fire chief, the police chief, whoever is gone, that those kinds of things be handled in a more immediate fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just a couple of things that I want to mention. I'll match that great event that took place with Gus Macker. So the Gus Macker did come back in town this weekend, and it was a great event. 206. So shout out to Mayfield football team that brought it back for this weekend. So that was a great event for our community. Also, I just have to share maybe on the council and board member reports, maybe not reporting as much, but I do have to say that that with Movida and some of the things that we're doing, I know we see a lot of things in Santa Teresa, but there is some carryover now. We have a cold storage unit that's going to open up that finally got a permit on the industrial park. We have some other developers coming, looking at warehouses there. We've got a delegation coming in actually tomorrow night to visit with Las Cruces that Movida brought in. So there are some things there. So I know I leave that with economic development and their budget and what they do, but I do have to share, as being on the board of Movida, we're starting to see some action. We're starting to see some things there. The other thing, I just want to mention, being a resident from Las Cruces the majority of my life, it's like, what we want is better for Las Cruces. I think we're all here on the dais with the same agenda to better Las Cruces, to do for the people. And I believe Realize is going to do that, is going to be a change for the better. And if not, we can amend it. And the thing that we have to hold up here is the honesty and integrity. And I believe the process was valid, and we followed our charter and we followed the state statute. So honesty and integrity and the betterment for Las Cruces, I believe that's what we're all here for. And I do have to say there is one thing that, try to remain calm and and not get angry. But there was a comment today that I do take offense to. And that's accusing our law officers, our peace officers, our police officers of committing murder. I have been through a police academy myself, and we are trained to stop the action. And that's the bottom line. We stop the action. And with that, I'll turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Enriquez, Mayor Pro Tem Bencomo, and City Councilors, Sikani Tamapiao, City Manager. And Mayor Enriquez, I appreciate you bringing up the Gus Macker. Did you want to bring up the three-pointers that you were shooting as well and how that went?
Not at this time. No.
Okay, no comment, no comment. But it was great. Mayor Enriquez, if you weren't there, he had the opportunity to open up, and there is the shot to open up the games, and it took him about 20 shots, but no comment on that to make it. But we're grateful for the football team. Mayfield bringing back the Gus Macker. There's about 200 plus teams. Obviously, I've heard great things about the Gus Macker before my time. Apparently, we've had one of the biggest Gus Macker tournaments out here years and years ago. So to bring that tradition back is great. There was a lot of kids there, and I believe Assistant City Manager J.C. Sun for their age group got second place, so congratulations to them. But just bringing a lot of people, a lot of food, a lot of vendors out is great. And so kudos to the football team taking the risk. It is something that is risky to make a profit, so them coming back with the support, hopefully they made the profit. We appreciate public safety being there, present, fire and PD representing as well. But again, thank you to the football team at Mayfield. This is a 3-year contract, my understanding, so this is one of 3 years. So our hope is that it'll continue to grow with support from the community. So thank you so much. Next up, I'd like to acknowledge that our fire chief, as we know, Chief Daniels vacated the deputy chief position as he's now our fire chief. So we had an interim role. Tibor Cruces has been our interim since that time, and they went through a very competitive selection process, and Tibor is officially the deputy chief of fire. So I just wanted to make that announcement. Council is aware, but just make sure public is aware of that as well. He's 17 years with Las Cruces Fire Department, and he's been battalion chief since 2021. So we're very excited for Tibor. Parks and Recreation, thank you for Councilor Coran announcing the grand opening ribbon cutting of Highland Park, if you all can make it, as she mentioned, 10 a.m. on Friday, May 23rd at 4651 Emerald Street. And there will be games, activities, and fun stuff. Additionally, get ready for a night of smooth grooves and downtown vibes. Mayor's Jazz Fest is back, and it's bringing the rhythm to the Plaza de Las Cruces. Whether you're a longtime jazz lover or just looking for a fun night out, this free concert is a perfect way to kick off the summer. This year's lineup will feature Las Cruces High School Jazz Orchestra, local student talent bringing big sound, Hillary Smith and Chill House, the powerhouse vocals, and high energy jazz, soul, and funk. Grab your lawn chairs, bring your friends, family, and enjoy live music under the stars on Sunday, May 25th at 7 p.m. Food trucks and vendors will be there. Quality of life, Border Regional Library Association board voted to hold this year's fall conference in Las Cruces, something that hasn't happened for several years. This relatively small association represents librarians in El Paso, Las Cruces, and Juarez and the surrounding area. We expect about 100 to 150 to attend the conference on November 14th to 15th. There has been meetings with library staff and Visit Las Cruces to see what staff can do and the team can do to support this event. Very grateful for Carol Bray, Sarah Booth, and library staff and Visit Las Cruces for making that happen. Congratulations to Las Cruces Public Libraries and especially Library Program Manager Shuli Serrano and her team for winning the GECU VITA 2025 Site of the Year. This is no surprise given the record-breaking number of tax returns that were completed by volunteers at a record-breaking 500 at the Brannigan Library. So kudos to the team. And maintenance and repair, public art piece, Tree of Knowledge is complete. Artist Andrew, was that what was done earlier today? But artist Andrew Nagum cleaned and repainted the sculpture. He also replaced the apple and went missing recently. The apple was provided by Jeffy Brewer, the artist who made the sculpture. Jeffy saw the photo we posted showing the restored sculpture and sent an email saying, "Thank you for facilitating the refresh. It looks amazing. Please pass along my thanks to the artist that did the great work. Great job." And then as mentioned by Councilor Flores, giving recognition to our city clerk, who was #1 in the universe and also #1 in the state and in our hearts. Christine Rivera, if you did not know, has been recognized as part of the 2025 Municipal Clerks Honor Roll, joining a distinguished group of over 300 honorees nationwide. So I wanted to recognize her. That is it, Mayor. Thank you. Oh, yes. And last but not least, wanted to recognize promotion of one of our employees. Her name is Selena Morales. She has been officially selected, and we can officially announce her as a Deputy Director of Economic Development. Is she in the audience? Here she is. So we appreciate her. She's doing a lot of great stuff, but she's in the back if you want to talk with her after the meeting. But thank you, Selena, and congratulations on that.
All right, thank you, Connie. And with that, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, I moved. Bencomo second.
That's not funny. This is on the motion to adjourn the meeting. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Matisse?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Cran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
No, I want to keep complaining. Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Yes.